Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we'll be given a recap of Kiss Cruise 10. Joining me will be Vincent LaRussa, as well as Mike Brunn, the guitar riff champ of Kiss Cruise 10. We have so much to cover in this episode, so why don't we just jump right in and let's get started. Everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I'm excited to have with me not one, but two very distinguished guests with me. The first one, you know, is my partner in crime, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing?
Good, and I should note that you've told me that people actually approached you on the cruise and said, "Is your partner in crime here?" So
yes,
I don't know. I'm quite honored by that. I'm sorry I wasn't there to greet these people, but the fact that I'm known as that and not on the other four-letter words, which probably is for some other people, but
I just kept those away from you. But I did have about a half a dozen people refer to you as my partner in crime on the cruise. Cool. Where's your partner in crime? Where's your partner in crime? So I just figured I would give you that acknowledgement here.
Thank you.
But then also with me is the reigning champ of all things Kiss Cruise 10, pretty much.
As I like to call him, award-winning.
Award-winning. He's like, keep it going. What else? It's Mike Brunn. How you doing, Mike? Welcome back to the show.
How are you? I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it, guys.
I am excited. And, you and I had discussed doing this prior to the cruise, before I knew you were going to be such a big celebrity after the fact. So I'm actually honored.
I'm just shocked that you were able to get him on. I thought he would be like, booking with this one. He's talking with Doc McGee. You know what I mean?
So schedule's tight now, between managers and agents and, TMZ. But I'll put you in.
Well, that's what a 30-40-year friendship will do. And I appreciate that, Mike. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Oh, man. So, I think before we start, and Vin, I want you to kind of, I'll say MC a little bit more this time than usual, since you weren't on the cruise. But, you and I had done a pre-cruise chat and kind of brought up some of the things that we were hoping to see or hoping to hear about on the cruise. And one of the stupid things that we do, as we always do, is you were taking a sip of a drink and, smooth. Right? And we said, if there you go, cracking it open. And we said, if anybody knew what the hell we were talking about, that we'd give them a shout out as you die on the episode.
It wasn't so smooth.
Not so smooth.
Medic, can I have a medic?
So I do want to give a shout out to Super Mario, who knew exactly what we were talking about. And Vin, why don't you just tell us, what the smooth, where it comes from?
Oh yeah, so that comes from. There's a couple of episodes of Three's Company where Ralph Furley goes to get some sort of hard liquor drink and something, and he's trying to be all suave as he was Mr. Furley, and he goes to take a sip, and he does that, like, I can't do a Don Knotts face, but he does this whole like kind of Don Knotts Mr. Furley thing, and then after he goes smooth like that, and that's where that comes from. So, and we were big fans of Three's Company and of course Don Knotts in the 80s. As a matter of fact, as much as I'm almost ashamed to say it, I used to carry a little, in my wallet, a picture of of Barney Fife.
Not your girlfriend or anything.
No. Well, first of all, let me say, I didn't have a girlfriend to put in there. So it was like either no girlfriend or Mr. Furley. So as sad as that is, I know Mike's like, how do I get off the show?
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Vin, we should also just mention what we talked about Don Knotts. We had a band in the 80s, right? And we recorded like 4 or 5 punk type songs, or whatever. One was a rap song, actually. But we did a cover of the Ramones song "Sheena is a Punk Rocker," and we changed it to Don Knotts is a punk rocker.
Yeah, Mike's like, where do I get this? Where is this?
That needs to be made an exclusive on a 45 for
I think we might be able to arrange it and sell about 5 copies. And we changed all the lyrics to be from Three's Company.
Well, he changed all. He was like, Mike was like the Weird Al Yankovic, back in the day.
Before there was a Weird Al, there was Weird Mike.
Weird Mike.
Yeah. Well, it's still Weird Mike,
That's true.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll unveil that for the fans. So we'll give them a little taste.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
I've been trying to get some of this stuff out for years, but he's been like, no. They're all like all, I don't even like goofy,
they're goofy
parodies. I want to say,
Barf Up Along,
Barf Up Along, like our Sex Pistols song. Yeah,
the dump song about taking a dump. So.
Yeah.
That's a universal appeal right there.
Everyone
can relate to that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh man, where's this going? Let's
veer back. Right. So now that people like, all right, delete, get rid of this podcast episode. So Kiss Cruise 10 was a week ago today that we're recording. And for those who know, obviously myself, Mike, you were on the cruise. Vin, you sat this one out this time. You were there on Kiss Cruise 9. I'm going to just start with a question or two for you, Vin, before you jump in and start asking us some questions. As you were at home seeing some of the things that others were sharing, was there any regrets? I know beforehand you said you had no regrets. Was there even for a millisecond that you're like, damn, I wish I was there?
Well, this is a tricky question because if I don't say there was, then they go, he's no fucking Kiss fan. What kind of Kiss fan is that? All right, so let's just get that out of the way. However, the great thing about being associated with the great Mike Brunn is that,
great Mike Brunn.
He will always kind of give me like little updates, which he did. He would text me to say little things that were going on. Or I know the way he is because I would see him like literally, after he's doing this, doing his recording, we're back and I'm talking to him. He's like on YouTube trying to post it, like, trying to get a signal, blowing in the wind, going like this, just so that he could try to get some sort of signal. So it was kind of cool to get those updates and see some of the stuff you were posting. Yeah, of course there was, I'm like, maybe I should have, who knows if it's going to be the last. Well, as we know now, spoiler alert, it's not the last one, but yeah, of course,
Mike, I didn't even know about this. I don't think really on the cruise. I heard you could put a deposit down with 6-man for next year. Did you do that?
No, I didn't. I know some people that did, but I was just running around.
Yep.
Kind of wish I had. I don't think it gets you any benefit other than, maybe you do get a discount.
I think that's what it seemed like. Like you put down 100 and it was a value of 250 or something. Like, I don't know, something like that. So yeah. I missed out. I didn't do it. I was wondering if you did it.
No, I know a few that did. So, probably should have, but whatever.
Yep. So, all right, Vince. So you had no regrets.
Well, again, of course.
You were like I'm still okay with my decision. Of the Kiss Cruise, right? No regrets.
Yeah. Without the book. Yeah, no, I'm still okay with my decision. As we're going to discuss, I do see there was a lot of cool things that went on and performances and whatnot, but I'm still okay with it.
Okay. So before we jump into
it's one more bass guitar I could buy or electric guitar I could buy. So that's my trade-off. Oh, you know what? I'll just spend it on the guitar. You know what I mean? That's so.
Yep. So before you start bombarding us with your questions, that you might have for us, Mike, what was your boarding experience like the morning of? What time did you start boarding?
Oh, I had a 9 o'clock boarding time. I got there at 8:30, and I was into the facility waiting for my test results within 5 minutes, and then that was a 30-minute wait for the test result, and then from there to the actual waiting area, with the check-in and all that, maybe 10 minutes. So it was lightning fast. And then I just sat and waited for 2 hours, but I prefer that to waiting online. How about you?
Right. I think mine was about an hour or so from the time I got to the dock, which was closer to 12 o'clock. Because my family moves at one speed and that's reverse, right? So, so we got, and Vin knows that, right? So, we got to the dock, the pier, whatever you want to call it, around 12 o'clock, and probably a little after 1, we got our test results back. And, I shouldn't even say we got our test results back. Our time came up and they're like, all right, you can get on the boat now. Like they never told us if we passed or not. I was like, all right, I guess I have a negative result. And I did get the email eventually that says it was negative.
Okay.
But I thought that was a little odd that they kind of just let us go just because our time was up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to argue. Quick, run in case something's wrong. Run. They'll never find me on the ship. Run. So, but it was pretty smooth, all things considering. There's that word again, Vince.
Pretty.
So, I was happy with that whole experience. I thought it was going to be, I'd read what they did with the Jericho cruise and people were waiting there for hours and hours. And I was afraid, but this was easy.
That's why I went early. I'd seen those reports and I'd chosen early anyway, but I raced there even ahead of that. And I just zipped through. I'm like, oh, man, I'm not waiting for this. So, all in all, it worked. It was, as you say, smooth.
Nice.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the cruise and the KISS stuff, I just want to ask generally, like, how was the experience being on other cruises now with a pandemic? I don't even know, are we still in the pandemic? I don't even know. But with the new rules of engagement, let's just call it that. We know, washy, with the hands and whatever. So what was it like moving around the boat for you guys, the food and all that other stuff, just the amenities for the boat itself? Was it much different, or once you're on the boat, they know you're vaccinated, you guys are good, So how was that?
Go ahead, Mike, you first.
To be honest, once you're on the boat, outside of the meet and greets, everything was the same. There were some people wore masks. Most of us didn't. There was no concern, at least on my part. The buffet and everything was the same. There was no more washy, but there were Purell stations like everywhere.
Squirty.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you literally couldn't go 20 feet without passing one, which is great. Everything awesome. Else was the same. I did find out that though, anybody that had a meet and greet, mine was the first night. So technically I was tested that day at the port, but anyone, let's say you had a Gene meet and greet on day 3, you had to be tested on the boat. And I don't think anybody knew that. And then the concern there was, if let's say you tested positive on the boat, you might be quarantined then for the duration of the trip. I don't know if that happened to anyone, but that was essentially the only difference, was just having to wear a mask when you were interacting with any of the bands, or at least in an official capacity. Because when they were walking around, it was mask usage was next to nothing.
Now, since you did the meet and greet, was it kind of the same amount of people for these meet and greets, or was it kind of less because, because of the whole concern, or, maybe people wanted to be a little bit more cautious?
I think I can only speak to the Paul experience. It seemed to be less people. He did all of us in one night. Anybody that purchased a mic or a guitar did that the first night. And there wasn't a lot, maybe 20, 25 guitars, and then, 2 or 3 mics, and that was really it. So it seemed less, but then again, the volume of people on the boat was less because of, issues with restrictions with people traveling in from overseas. So there was a noticeable lack of people,
And you felt it. You actually felt it, like just walking around?
Multiple ways. The excitement from our South American and Australian friends that are usually there that sing along to the solos and stuff, that didn't happen. And we as Americans are somewhat spoiled because we see the band so much more often than they do. So there were less purchases, I think. But then again, the number I heard for Gene with his purchases was ridiculous, like 60 something bases.
Wow.
So, I think that's really the only difference. Other than that, it was business as usual. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, no, Mike, I think you and I ran into each other and we were talking outside the buffet the last night, if I remember my timeline right. And we were both saying that the cruise, we were estimating to be about 70% filled roughly. And I had said something along the lines of, I wish going forward, let me make sure I word this properly. I wish going forward that everybody around the world had the opportunity to continue going on the cruises and weren't left out the way they were this year. However, I wish that it was only sold at that 70% capacity. That's never going to happen. I know that. But like Mike said, it was a very noticeable difference with everything on the boat. Be it that, hey, Paul's doing his cooking thing in the Stardust Theater, and you don't have to get there an hour beforehand because it's going to run out of space. You were able to show up 5 minutes beforehand, grab a seat, sit down, not a problem. Even Bruce's show in the Stardust Theater, as he was performing, I was looking around, and there was still some seats around here and there because the ship was only at 70% capacity. And I say 70% because they did put up on the screen first time as how many, second time as how many, so on and so forth. And I did the math and I added that up and I looked at the ship's capacity and it actually was only 68%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but then you have to add in the bands who have cabins that aren't on the screen, right? And the workers. So I figured it's probably closer to like 75% filled. But in terms of fans, I mean, you're at that 70% capacity and you felt the difference. You felt the difference on the pool deck. I felt the difference everywhere you went. But I did miss, like Mike said, those sing-alongs of our international friends. And when the indoor show, when they did Detroit Rock City, you heard a few people trying to sing the solo, but it just never actually like built up the way it does. So it was a different experience, but I loved the space. I missed having some friends on board, but I loved the space that was there.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, going on at the one time, I remember it never felt like you were being like the walls are closing in and there's so many people on the boat. But to what you're saying, when you wanted to go to some of those shows, some of those experiences, I remember being with you and you're always like the captain with that. He's like looking at the watch to precise time, like, you know, this Big Ben, this Big Brunn, you know what I mean? It's like he's like looking at the clock and he would always like get it perfected somehow, you know, it's just a guest experience. But so not have to worry about that. That sounds like that's actually kind of a cool way to experience the cruise.
You know, I'll add one other thing. The last night on the ship, they had to make some schedule changes. And Mike was actually the one that notified me. I didn't even hear the announcement. And he notified me that they changed Night Range's time, which I was very, very pissed off about. And we'll talk about separately. Right. But so I was watching Night Ranger, but I wanted to make sure I saw Bruce. And Bruce started, if I remember right, at 7:45. And I originally planned to get to Bruce's show like the half hour, 45 minutes early. But then I'm like, oh, you know, it's been easy to get a seat. And I'm looking around at the Night Ranger show and I'm calculating in my mind, well, there's probably about 300, 400 people watching Night Ranger right now. And I literally waited till like 7:42 when I showed up for Bruce's and I just sat right down. It was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. So, you know, that's my experience with the crowds and the capacity this year.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think what I want to do is, since we're talking about the experience of getting on the ship and what the crowd is like, let's just start talking about the sail away show, because I know that's like usually the highlight, one of the highlights of, you know, the cruise. It's always anticipated. What are they going to do? Are they going to do some, you know, deep cuts or whatever? And this is the one thing that I, you know, just looking from afar, was a little disappointed in seeing, just because when I saw the set list, it's not so much what was on the set list, but it seemed a bit shorter than they normally play. So why don't you guys comment on that?
Good, Mike, you first.
It did seem a little shorter. I had heard, matter of fact, I had purchased an acoustic bass because it was supposed to be an acoustic sail away, and that was, you know, just after the last cruise. So they had offered a studded Punisher with an F-hole. And I purchased that. They were only making 2, and then I found out, Christina reached out shortly before the cruise, that they were no longer doing that. They were going to use these that sort of dragon demon paint or artwork on there. I chose not to get that, but they had sold 6 acoustic basses, so they were all set to go forward with acoustic. And then I heard that almost right before the show, either day of or you know, a few days before, Paul put squash on that and went with electric only. So I wasn't expecting that. And then when I see the Marshall amp on the stage and all that, I'm like, well, this doesn't look like an acoustic set. So it was good. It was short. It was almost half of the set was what they do with the sound check on the end of the road tour now. But again, I'm not complaining. Bruce came out, did 2 tunes electric, which is the first time since '95. So it's Kiss. I'm on a boat. I'm happy, but I'd be a lot happier if it was 5 or 6 songs more and maybe some deeper cuts. You know, so I can't complain, but well,
Mike, let me ask you a question. Were you happy when they were doing electric, or were you hoping it was acoustic?
To be honest, I was happy it was electric.
Me too. You know, that almost, so going back to your question, Ben, you know, about the time of the set, and I was disappointed when it ended at 65 minutes. And it's funny because I had said to my daughter the night before, no, the morning of, I said, the sail away show, Stanley always seems like he wants to run. I always feel like he doesn't want a part of it, right? And it's usually around that 65, 70 minute mark that he's like, oh, all right, I think that's good. And then the crowd yells, and all right, let's do one more, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think the last song was She, if I remember right. Right when they started She, I turned to my daughter and I said, all right, after this song, he's going to say that's enough, right? And then we'll go through the thing and we'll do 2 more songs and it'll be over and it'll be 75 minutes. So She ends and he's like, all right, thank you. And I turned to my daughter, I said, you see? But then they really walked off and never came. Like, wait a second. That wasn't part of the script here. He was supposed to do a couple more songs. So I was disappointed. It was only about 65 minutes roughly, to be honest. But that disappointment was offset by the fact that I was happy that it was electric instead of acoustic, because to me, electric, Going Blind, Plastic Cast, I forget what else they did.
Got to Choose, Love Her All I
Yeah.
Can, Shock Me, Christine 16. You want me to keep going? Like, I got to listen in front of me.
I might as
well tell people.
Go ahead.
People. Tears Are Falling, Heaven's on Fire, A World Without Heroes, Hotter Than Hell, Calling Dr. Love, and as you said, She.
Right.
And did we mention Going Blind and Plastic Caster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So to me, I'd much rather hear all of those electric than acoustic. I've been to probably 10 acoustic shows over the course of my life. I'd rather hear Going Blind electric. I've only seen or heard that, in person maybe twice beforehand. So my excitement was greater than my disappointment because it was electric, is the best way for me to say it.
So, okay, you're amongst the crowd of people. Were people like, whoa, what's going on? They usually play long. Or did you hear any mulling about, or people like, oh, that was
not
great?
Not me. Okay. I don't know about where you were. In fact, Mike was about 20 feet to my left. And that was the first sign that I thought that he didn't like me anymore. Because I'm like, Mike!
I heard nothing.
How could you with all the noise on the pool deck? I'm calling him and he's like totally in the zone. Of course.
Was whipping too. Yeah. But that'll tell you how the crowd difference was on this cruise. Typically at the Sail Away show, unless you're there right after muster, which is 3 hours before, you're nowhere near where I was. And then if you're pointing out where you were, if you were to my right, then that would also be somewhere you'd have to be hours in advance.
Agreed.
And I only walked up, 20 minutes or so before the show started.
Wow,
and I was about a half hour before the show.
I would love, me, Mike, I would love that, So.
I think for one of the brew shows, Vin, I walked up to like where I like to stand less than 10 minutes before the show, and I was able to just walk right in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was another benefit of the 70% capacity. But
okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Sail Away show still, even with it being a shorter set. I loved Bruce coming out, doing the 2 songs. Vin, that was something you and I spoke about on the pre-thing. How would they utilize Bruce this cruise? Would it be during what we thought would be the acoustic set? Would they actually introduce him to the electric? And I wondered if this was one of the reasons they went electric, because if they brought Bruce out again for the Sail Away show acoustic, it's kind of like been there, done that a few times already. So this just felt different to me. So I think if I'm not mistaken, it's the first time Bruce has played electric with them since '95. So to me, that was exciting, Cool. Yeah. So good.
No, that's what I said. So it sounds like you both really enjoyed the Sail Away show, even if it was a little shorter. Again, to Mike's point and to what we always say, no matter what this band does, no matter what they say in the media about other band members, we're always going to come back and we're always going to love the band. We may roll our eyes and whatever, but, we're always going to love the band and we're always going to be loyal to the end. So, it just sounds like you guys were really happy with the performances. And how did Paul sound?
Sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah.
I know that's always a question. Oh, does Paul sound? That's why I'm not. That's why I'm not for those people saying, "Why are you asking how does Gene sound?"
Let me ask Mike. So no, let me ask Mike if he caught something. Did you catch Gene's voice cracking? I think it was during Christine 16. Yes. And Paul looked at him and started laughing, almost like to say, now you know what it's like. And it happened a few times where his voice cracked.
That's in a video too. You had sent me a video of one of the sound checks or something like that, or I guess it's like when they do that. You couldn't buy that package now to do you could watch the sound check, and Paul did that with him on what song was that?
I don't recall, but this was in front of a crowd and Gene's doing Christine 16 and his voice cracked a couple of times, and you could see the two of them looking at each other and laughing, but I got the impression Paul was like looking at him saying, now you know what it's like, buddy. Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Paul was very animated.
The show.
Yeah. He was. Yeah.
Well, for those people, again, and I could tell you firsthand, listen, I'm nowhere near the league of a Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons as the musician and playing at that level. However, at their age, being probably, and I don't want to reveal my age, but we'll just say it's 20 years, older than I am, to still go out and sing and do what they need to do. For those people, who pick on these guys, this is not easy to do. And then you have the elements of if there's windy and this and going on, and who knows if you're congested and all this other stuff. It's not like you just snap your finger and all of a sudden be like a 20-year-old, a vocalist or even guitar player or whatever, or move around. Even you see Paul now, one of the things I commented in watching a Kiss show is when you watch Kiss live and they show the videos at back of them, and you see what Paul used to do, this guy, it was not like David Lee Roth, like in that league where he's doing like splits where his legs are up in the air like this. However, Paul was an incredible frontman back in the day, as far as what he did physically, to expect these guys to be doing that at 70 plus years old, you got to be realistic.
And not for nothing. I mean, if you look at a cross section of the Kiss fans on the cruise, let's say they're all mid 40s, average.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 90% of them cannot even come close to the physicality that Gene and Paul will put forth on stage.
And I'm in that 90%, just for the record.
Yeah.
I'm right there at the top. So,
and that's a good point, because the people who are going to a Kiss cruise are not going to be typically, and you guys can correct me, are fans that are going to pick on the band. You're there because you really love the band. Those are like the diehard people that go on a Kiss cruise. Yeah. You're paying that money and you're paying for those experiences because you love the band. Period. End. Yeah, you may get disappointed here and there in certain things that happen, but you're always going to defend your band, So,
Mike, let me ask you this. So I assumed going into the cruise that the indoor shows were going to just be standard set lists. That was just an assumption, they had the whole Fran passing away. They had been on tour right before that. I just assumed they weren't going to have time to rehearse. And we'll talk about the indoor shows in a moment. But I even felt that greater once they did an Electric Sail Away show, and they did some of those lesser played songs, even though they do them in sound checks. But I thought in my mind, well, that was a way for them to do some lesser known songs in an electric setting. And I was convinced coming off of that Sail Away show that we would get in a 90-minute standard set. In fact, I said to somebody on the boat, they're going to do the standard set. They're just going to take out Tears Are Falling, and they're going to take out Heaven's on Fire, because they just did those with Bruce. They'll probably take out like the drum solo, the guitar solos, and maybe like that last half of 100,000 Years, and bang, there you go, 90-minute set. I was convinced that's what we were going to get inside in the indoor show.
Same.
Well, just hold that there, because we're not there yet. So what I want to ask is, what is the next show you guys got to see? Because I don't know the schedule. What was the next like big act, under the Kiss umbrella?
Bruce, right?
Was it Bruce?
So under the Kiss umbrella.
Or I should just say under the Kiss cruise, because it's Kiss cruise, but then we should say again, we had Night Ranger there. Sebastian Bach was supposed to be there. We could talk about that later, that he wasn't. Black and Blue, Queensryche, right? Who else am I missing?
So I watched Queensryche that night on the pool deck. Obviously that's not Kiss related, other than they were on the Kiss cruise. But I did watch Queensryche that night.
Okay, so was that like the next kind of somewhat big act, or that followed
that was,
Kiss?
I think that was the first big show, if I remember right.
Did both you guys see that?
No, I had the Paul meet and greet, so I had to miss that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Until the last two songs or so.
Right.
So, Mike, how was the Queensryche? How did they sound? Because I know you had said in the past that you were quite surprised on how much you enjoyed seeing Queensryche with the new lead singer, and I forget his name. You could mention his name. Yeah, and you said he like won over the crowd, and so how did the crowd respond to
I will say this: I am not the biggest Queensryche fan in the world. I have some of the albums, but I can't sit there and rattle off every song on every album, right? I thought they were very good. They sounded perfect, and they really sounded great. Todd's got an amazing voice. He didn't have to win over the crowd because he's been there for 7-8 years now, whatever it is. Everybody knows who he is. I caught them twice on the cruise. I was like, all right, no, I'm good. I saw them twice. Excellent show, though. Excellent. I mean, top-notch musicians, top-notch singer. I can't say a single bad thing about them. Some of the songs I didn't know in the set list, again, because I'm not the biggest Queensryche fan, but the ones I did know, they nailed them, in my opinion.
What about the overall attendance? Was there a lot of people to go see the band, or? Because I remember when we went and we saw Warrant, and now it's not Warrant with Janie Lane,
right?
But they still had like a nice showing, because of the catalog. So,
again, starting with a 70% capacity, they had a nice showing, but nothing was ever packed, ever. I stood further back because I wanted to stand further back, because there was no reason being crowds of people if I didn't need to, is the way I thought. So they had a nice crowd, but it wasn't packed.
Okay. So after Queensryche performs, Mike is enjoying the meet and greet with Paul. So how was that? The whole meet and greet. I know you touched upon it a little bit, but how was that?
It was good. Everybody lined up. They would bring you in. I guess there were some last minute plans that were changing and stuff, as it always is on the cruise. But they got us in there, and you just went down in an assembly line, took your photos with Paul. He was behind a rope. You had your mask on until you got to that point. And really not much different than your standard meet and greet with Paul. He's very efficient, where it's just, hi, how you doing? Take a picture, and then you cycled back through and you waited with the items you wanted to have signed. And I hung out for the whole event because they went through all the guitars first. I didn't buy the guitar, I bought the mic, so I was kind of at the end of it. But that's fine. You know, you watch people get their stuff signed, and he was friendly. You know, would chat with folks, but it was you know, just an assembly line type thing. So about 2.5 hours for the whole thing, and that was it.
Mike, I got a question
And
for you. Oh, sorry, Ben.
yeah,
I know in the past when I did the Paul meet and greets, he did either the acoustic show or he did like the Q&A. Did he do anything like? I didn't hear anything about that.
Nothing.
Nothing. Interesting.
Nothing
Okay.
extra. Yeah.
Interesting.
is Paul getting lazy?
I got the vibe, and a few people that were sort of in that circle were kind of saying he just wasn't in the mood to do that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's understandable between COVID and what happened with Fran. You know, I'm surprised it actually happened. And up until day of, nobody knew what it was going to be. In interacting with Keith and stuff, he was being, you know, he's reaching out to all of us, letting us know it's going to go this way. Let's meet this time. We'll check in here. But how it's actually going to play out, we don't know. And it just seemed like everything else in the last year and a half, it just was a little crazy. But it came off okay. You know, I can't complain. I got my stuff signed, got my photo, a pretty good photo with him, and
no mask in the photo, right, Mike?
No mask. No, they wanted you to wear the mask while you're in the space, but when you're up with him, you could take it off momentarily. And you know, I followed the rules.
Yep.
Real simple.
And now at this point, Mike, do they know who you are because you've bought so many and you've had so many experiences? But did they say, here he comes again, Mike Brunn? Like, do they know? Like, does Paula G know you?
No, I don't think so, because there's a lot of us that buy multiple things. I know just some other friends that have purchased stuff. Paul does sort of know them, but it really depends on how you act with him. I'm usually very reserved, and just try to stay chill because, you know, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not like that 5-year-old anymore. At least on the outside. But
right. Yeah.
And Mike, I say the same thing when people ask me, "Oh, the Gene must know who you are, Paul." I said, as far as they see that, I'm a paying customer. Period. You know,
that's all.
The people who work for them know who you are, know who I am, but they meet so many people they can't remember.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you really have to make an impression, and I think the thing is with Paul, it's very difficult to make a good impression because he's very, you know, the way he is, he's very specific about how he wants stuff. And you know, with Gene, on the other hand, you can literally talk about anything, you know, his toenails, and he'll have an hour-long and he'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
But so I don't think they know me, but their people do. And I gotta say, you know, if they're watching, Keith and everybody on Paul's team, and Christina and Patrick and everybody on Gene's team, they're phenomenal people. I mean, they put up with you guys know, you've been to some of these experiences. Some of the questions and the requests and things are really off the wall. And it's controlled chaos at every single event, and they make it work. And especially now in COVID time. So, you know, kudos to them. They made it work on the boat. And as I said, the thing with Paul was great. I had no complaints whatsoever.
Yep. That's that. You know, Mike, I want to ask you something because Vin will never know to ask this because he wasn't on the ship, right? So that first night, overnight, that boat was rocking. Holy crap. Yeah. Not rocking from concerts. It was rough seas. I mean, it woke up my son, who said he thought he was going to throw up. I heard other people on the boat said they were throwing up.
Yeah.
Did that impact you? Because it honestly didn't have a huge impact on me. My daughter was out at the gym at 7 a.m. running on a treadmill, and somebody in there was actually making fun of her. Like, how are you doing that right now? But my son was almost sick. Did it impact you at all?
No, actually, I was a little concerned because it was really moving. But I enjoyed it. It makes me sleep better, you know? The only problem was the hangers in the closet banging against
yeah.
But once you get your
we took them all off the hooks and just laid them on the floor. Yeah, because they're all night long.
I was too lazy. I just left them, and I passed out anyway. I was exhausted.
Okay.
But yeah, it didn't bother me. I to be honest, I kind of enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was a little bumpy and a little rough for me, but it was okay. But the reason I brought that up is, again, Vin, now you were asking like who we went to see. The next morning, it was really noon-ish, Black and Blue was playing for the second time. So it's 12 afternoon, the first full day on the boat, and Black and Blue is playing for the second time, which I thought was a little odd that Six Man would do that they scheduled Black and Blue the evening of the sail away, and then the morning the next day. You're on the boat for, 14, 15 hours at this point. Black and Blues performed twice. Night Ranger hasn't performed. Sebastian Bach, who was supposed to be on the ship and wasn't, and we can talk about that, hadn't performed yet. Yeah, Black and Blue performed twice. But we kind of had heard through the grapevine that Tommy was going to show up at this noon show. And Mike and I and my son actually watched the show together. And I've seen some people comment online that A, there wasn't a lot of people. B, the crowd was very mellow. I'll say a couple of things. Number one, it was 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So that's that. Two, they had played just the night before, mere 12 hours beforehand. So you weren't going to have people coming just for that reason. Number three, and that's why I wanted to bring up the rough seas. You had people not feeling well. So even some of the people that were out there, I think were a little bit like, even my son who was out there with me, he refused to eat. He was like, if I eat, I'm going to throw up. So I think that was one of the reasons the crowd was a little mellow, maybe more mellow than they would have been.
Can I add a number 4?
Yeah, go ahead. I was there, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just going to say, no, I mean, this is, I think I made a comment about this maybe on the pre-show about the cruise. That Black and Blue, I don't think it has the kind of catalog that people know, like, oh, they had this hit, they had that, and I maybe just don't have that. And I'm not trying to put the band down at all, but maybe just, even though Tommy was a part of that band and Gene Simmons produced them, but maybe they just didn't have the kind of interest of, like, obviously a Sebastian Bach or Night Ranger or that kind of thing, and it could have been lighter because of that. I'm just speculating, of course. I don't know.
I think that's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. I think overall the scheduling with the other bands on the cruise was not the best. It wasn't spaced out right. There was not a lot of it just didn't make sense. And granted, 2 artists dropped out. One, Jared James Nichols, he was out, and then Sebastian Bach. So they were scrambling. But yeah, I think that timing was odd. And again, the 12 o'clock thing, a lot of people, including some of the artists, made reference to how they were not feeling good with that boat doing what it was doing. So, and plus you have to add the fact that there was unlimited booze, which is almost never a thing. So a lot of people were hurting from that alone.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. You didn't have to pay extra for that. There was unlimited booze.
You had to pay gratuity, but I believe if you booked prior to COVID and then with all the business that went on in between, if you kept that booking, I think, and there may be more to it, but you were basically entitled to the free alcohol package, which meant you could drink all day, all night.
Wow.
And you just pay the gratuity. So a lot of people took full advantage of that. And that was evident, which made for an enjoyable people watching experience.
Now, Mike, that was the first time you and I hung out, and we hung out a few times on the ship. We watched the Black and Blue show. So we can now say we've seen 2 concerts together. And this one was actually a rock concert, right? So, although
we've seen 2. What's the first?
We saw Colin Hay in Epcot together.
No, you're missing another one. What about when we went to the Kiss show and we went to go visit Mike down by his seat? Yes. And then we said, we might as well just stay over here. We stood in the aisle, like basically right next to him.
That's true. We stood next to him, but this was like Mike were the Essence during the show and whatever. So it was like an official hang. But if I remember right, Mike, that was where I found out for the first time that Sebastian Bach wasn't going to be on the boat, right? So apparently there was some kind of announcement or whatever. I didn't hear it, didn't listen, who the hell knows? But you mentioned to me, hey, did you hear Sebastian Bach's not on the boat? And I said to you in a very, no, you're wrong type of, no, he's still on the schedule. What are you talking about, Mike? And he's like, no, they made an announcement. He said, but he's on the schedule. And I'm like fighting you on it. Like, but I thought that was odd that, here it is. I'm not looking at the paper schedule that was printed. I took a picture of the screen because they put the schedule on the screens. And it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're still saying Sebastian Bach's performing that day, or whatever it was, 8 o'clock that night. And I'm like, well, Mike, maybe you heard that, but Six Man is saying that he's still playing. And it wasn't until like 4 or 5 in the afternoon that they actually changed it, which I think is weird.
For people, no, the boat's already gone, right? It's already left.
Oh, yeah.
So unless he's in a tugboat going like this, like trying to catch up to the boat, like they should have known by now, like, oh shit, he's not on the boat,
right. Exactly, which is why I was like, Mike, somebody told you this, but Six Man said he's performing, he's on the boat. But as is always the case, Mike turned out to be right. And
never doubt me.
So in fact,
Mike see him at the dock.
That's
Yeah.
you know, some people did say they saw him at the dock. I don't know if that's true or not, but some people have said that they saw him there. There's all kind of stories why he wasn't on. Did he not pass his COVID test? Did he forget to do his COVID test earlier in the week? Some people said he didn't have his passport updated. It's all speculation. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But all I know is he wasn't on the ship. That much turned out to be the case.
Okay. So, all right. So there was the Black and Blue show. So what was the next show that you guys had interest in seeing?
I think at that point it was Bruce, right? Bruce went on that evening on the pool deck.
Yep, Bruce was on the pool deck. But you know, before we talk that,
okay, because I got some stuff here.
Okay, no, you go. It's your show.
No, because it's going to pertain to the Bruce show. So
okay, all right. So
yeah.
So before we do that, I think if I'm not mistaken, and Mike, help me if I'm wrong, right? That afternoon, I went to. They have an autograph session on the boat. So I went to the autograph session where Night Ranger was there, Queensryche was there, and I met them. Wasn't able to take pictures, but I got some stuff autographed. But at that same time was the Kiss trivia, if I'm not mistaken, right, Mike? Wasn't it like the first full day? Because I was wondering, like, why wasn't I at the show? I'd gone to that before in the past. And was a team of myself, which was kind of sad. But you know, I was like, why wasn't I at that trivia? Why, you know, at least wasn't I watching when you had your first big moment? So talk about the trivia.
So the last couple of years, I guess the first cruise I went on was 2018, and I just walked into the room to do the trivia then, or at least see it, and I sat down with a couple guys, Russ, Mark Ciccini, Jake and Joe Papalardo, a couple other guys. Jared
guys
Frank.
That know nothing about Kiss, obviously.
Yeah, clearly they were just there for the drinks,
right?
So this one was hosted by Tommy and Jamie St. James. So not realizing it said 3:30 it started. So I show up there around 10 after 3, and I think it was in Spinnaker, which is a big lounge, holds I'd say a couple hundred people, and it was full. And I'm like, oh man, and I couldn't find my guys that we usually do it with. We didn't set it up, but we figured we'd all meet there. So I run into Jared, run into a couple other guys, and then like the last minute, in comes Joe and Jake and Russ, and we set up a team. We signed up like with a minute to go, but there had to be at least 10 teams, and they had runners, like people going out collecting your slips when you write your answer down. But it was mobbed because it was Tommy, you know, and Jamie there. And last year the questions they had or 2 years ago were terrible. The guy from Six Man was asking ridiculous questions. This time around, they were really hard questions. And, you know, there's been a bit of a rivalry. I know it sounds stupid, but there's certain folks that always talk a little trash when they win. And, you know, that's what you do. And, and you know, we just sat down and somehow we came up with 19 out of 20. And even that one that we got wrong, one guy on the team was like, no, you're all wrong. This is the right answer. And we're like, yeah,
do you remember what the question is? Because now I'm curious of which one. Of course, I want to know what you got wrong.
Was it the shoes question?
No, that was a bonus question.
Okay.
And nobody got that right. Okay. The question we got wrong was, and I will put it to both of you, what was the highest chart position that Rock and Roll Over ever achieved in America?
We went through this. Remember on
the ride we just did this in a car ride home from one of the Kiss, but I'm not going to remember off the top of my head. But we just did this. Like Vin was like, how do you know? Like I was like, Rocket Ride peaked at number 39 on the Billboard. He's like, how do you know that? I was like, I don't know how or why, but I do. Rock and Roll Over, I thought peaked at like around number 12 on the Billboard charts, but I could be wrong.
And you, Vin?
I was going to say about that. I'm just going to say whatever he says. Yeah, about that. Well, yeah, I'm going to say 13 because of my lucky number.
You said 11, okay.
No, I take that back. I thought 6. For some reason, myself and Russ, instantly 6 popped into our heads, but it was 11.
11, yeah, I'm seeing it now.
That's the one we got wrong. But we still won. And it was fun because, you know, it's all audience participation. And every group, you know, when you would raise your hand to answer the question, you know, after they've collected all your answers, just as extra fun, and they would give out prizes. And Tommy somehow found a collection of old Black and Blue shirts and 45s that were pristine from like 84. And there's a lot of Black and Blue fans on the boat. So they were giving those out with some Kiss stuff, and people were very happy with it. And, you know, as it went on, we were, you know, it gets competitive, and we somehow ended up winning. And they brought us down, gave us each $100 merch voucher. Nice. And we got to hang with Tommy. Took a picture with Tommy and Jamie. I got to tell you, you know, if you haven't met Tommy before, I know people give him grief, but Tommy's about as nice a guy as you can get.
Agreed.
and just cool as hell, and a great guitar player.
Yeah.
You know, and Jamie is just like a fun guy. You know, he's a great singer, and you know, we've seen him in the Kiss tribute bands, we've seen him in Black and Blue, but he's just a really cool guy. And we were hanging with them, and they were like, "How do you know this shit?" Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know what I did a week ago.
I love that. Yeah.
But I will know, you know, the most obscure Kiss reference somewhere, because I don't know, you pound it into your brain over 40 years and it just takes up space in there.
Mike,
So,
you said you guys got 19 out of 20. What was the closest team to you guys? Do you remember?
I think 16 out of 20.
Impressive. Still impressive.
So
That's
yeah,
so
we're
great,
like, "What? We won," you know, and then we come marching down like kings right to the middle of the lounge there, and everyone's cheering and all that. And yeah, it was fun. Whatever, you know, as Kiss fans, we all appreciate that. Somebody else that's not a Kiss fan would be like, "God, you guys know the most useless garbage."
Yeah.
For us, it was fun.
So I was reading about it online, that the shoes question, right? So you said that was a bonus question. So say what that question was, because I'll butcher it if I try to say it.
I believe it was, whose clogs did Gene wear on the cover of Dress to Kill? And they went around the room asking people, and some of the answers were like,
I think I know that answer.
What is it?
I think you're going to say the wrong answer. Go ahead.
Well, you think I'm going to say Jesus, what's the manager's name? What? Oh my God, I'm
Bill
having a brain. Bill Coyne. No, it's not. It's this the woman, Joyce
Biowitz?
No, yeah.
No.
Okay.
So who was it, Mike?
They were aces.
Really?
Oh, really? See, I knew it wasn't. I knew
Tommy.
it wasn't Bill Coyne's, but
wow, I did not know that actually.
Every name was thrown out there: Sean Delaney, Bill, Joyce, you know, family members, etc. And Tommy said that they had this conversation with the band at some point. You know, him and Gene, I guess, in the recent past, and they were aces.
Interesting. Now, if that came from Gene, I'll put that as a 50-50. That could be wrong.
Of course.
So, you know, but that's interesting.
And you can't go ask Ace. You know what I mean? Forget it.
Ace would be like, I didn't even know I own shoes.
Yeah. But it was some of the somebody answered Bill Coyne's wife, and then the room just fell silent. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So, that was an interesting answer.
Yeah. So while Mike was doing that, like I said, I was in the meet and greet with Night Ranger, Queensryche, Liliac was in there. I think the Talisman was in there at that time. I found this very interesting. First off, the line was not too bad to get in, but it was probably a few hundred people waiting for the meet and greet. I would say 70% of the people who were online were there for Night Ranger, which surprised me. I figured it would be split between Night Ranger and Queensryche, but Night Ranger had a line. They had actually shut the Night Ranger line because there were so many people. And Queensryche, you were able to just walk right over and meet them. And so that imbalance surprised me quite a bit, to be honest with you. Granted, I was one of those people on the Night Ranger line causing that imbalance, right? But it surprised me. But here's the interesting thing to me, and only Kiss Cruisers will get this. The second most popular line there was not Queensryche. It was Liliac. Okay. And that blew my mind because, and I mean no disrespect to Liliac, each one of those kids individually have more talent than I will ever have in my lifetime. Okay. They have more confidence than I ever did at their age. They could sing, they could play their instruments. But Queensryche has been a touring, known entity for 30 years, 40 years, whatever the number is now. Yeah. And there was 5 people online for Queensryche and 35 people or whatever the number was for Liliac. And I said, wow, that's only on the Kiss Cruise will you see that, I think.
They have a huge fan base within the Kiss community.
They do. It's amazing. And, you know, kudos to them. And the lead singer, I don't know what her name is. She sings incredible. Oh my God, she's incredible. Her the Dio songs that she does and the Sabbath songs she does. And she got up on that All-Star Jam. We could talk about that, you know. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. So I'm not taking anything away from them other than just trying to compare them to Queensryche. And I was shocked that they had, you know, 8 to 10 times the number of people at their table waiting to meet them compared to Queensryche. That blew my mind.
Yeah, that's surprising. Very much so.
Yeah. You know, even for it being a Kiss Cruise where I know that they're loved and understandably so, it's still, that's Queensryche. That's Queensryche over there. I actually almost felt bad for the guys. Like literally after I met Night Ranger, I was like, all right, what do I want to do? Do I want to leave? Do I want to? And I was like, well, there's nobody at the Queensryche table. I might as well just walk over there and get my Kiss Cruise poster signed. And it took me all of about 90 seconds to walk through the line. It was a very weird thing. Whereas, like I said, Night Ranger, they had to cut off And even though this session wasn't done, they had to cut off the line and say to people, that's it. You can't meet Night Ranger anymore. Go to somebody else's line. That this line's too long at this point.
It kind of reminds me of when we did the Kiss, I think it was the Indie Convention or one of them, Mike, where it was Lita Ford was there, and
the Indie Expo.
Indie Expo, Mark Slaughter, and who else was there? But Bob Kulick was there, remember?
Yes.
And I just remember feeling bad at the time because like nobody was over there talking to him.
Agreed, I remember that.
You know what I mean?
Ford's line was like out the door.
Yeah. And I know he was getting upset because the line was going through, and I heard him saying, "Yeah, they're blocking, they can't see me," and
that's right.
And now in retrospect, I'm sure a lot of people would have liked to talk to Bob,
Agreed.
Unfortunately, because he's passed. But that's what that reminds me. I'm the same type, like, because I picture me, because even the little that I do with music, being that artist. And you're witnessing these other lines, and you're like thinking, "What about me?" You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, especially when you see that disparity between the two.
Sure.
I kind of I sympathize with an artist or band when that happens, so I could see how you felt that way.
Yeah, I'll just show you guys. So I had taken a few Night Ranger albums with me because I did plan on going to the meet and greet. I wanted to meet them, right? So I thought it was kind of cool. I bought this on the cruise. This is the new Night Ranger album. If you haven't heard it, it is great. I highly recommend it. But I got that signed by the full bands. But then I brought my 2 albums from my childhood of 7 Wishes. This is mine from 1985. And of course, the Midnight Madness album. I can't find Dawn Patrol, but I got it signed by Jack and Brad and Kelly. They were all super nice. But when I was online before we went in, I noticed other cruises were bringing this, which is a poster that they gave us the first night in the cabin. And if you see, you could see I've got a whole bunch of signatures on it. I went to both sessions at a meet and greet, and I met, I wrote on the back all the signatures and where they are, so I knew who's who. But I've got everybody from Night Ranger, Queensryche, Black and Blue, all the main artists. I got Great Cass to sign it. So it was kind of like a cool little keepsake for me.
Did he charge you for that, Great Cass?
No, he didn't actually.
There's a whole joke behind that.
Yeah. Oh man, when we went to Indy, Mike, there was all these different tables of people signing, whether it was Anton Fig, whether it was Frehley's Comet, and most of them actually weren't charging. And then I go over to Great Cass, and he wasn't charging people, but he wouldn't sign for me.
He wanted you to buy the DVD.
He wanted me to buy DVD. Yeah, if you buy a DVD, really? I'll sign them. Yeah, I have no idea why.
And what'd you say to him?
Picked on me. I said, "You lose. I'm not buying any DVD." So, but luckily for me, he didn't remember that, and he did actually sign my poster. I think that's his signature right over here. But I just think this is the kind of like cool thing. And I actually was able to run into Tommy Thayer when I had the poster, and he was signing stuff. So I got Tommy Thayer to sign it also. So that to me was like a cool keepsake. I'll frame it and hang it here. But
yeah, it looks nice. It really looks nice too.
Yeah, that was cool. So go ahead, Ben.
You guys have you have the meet and greet. So the next the evening is when Bruce's band was playing. Did they call it like Bruce Kulick and the Mob or the Vegas Mob? Like how did he
They had an electric wall, an LED behind the stage. And it was just Bruce Kulick with his new logo, which I think is like 8 4x12 cabinets, and then a different kind of font. I think it's new to him behind him. So it was a cool setback, but nothing with the Vegas Mob, although he did mention that, I guess it's their unofficial name, but I'm sure that'll become more official since more of us are knowing, or calling them that, I should say.
So
even the schedule just said Bruce Kulick on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I should mention there was a couple of people from the last podcast that we did, Mike, the pre-show. We had Timothy Burchell, who said that he was so looking forward to the Bruce Kulick band, and Joe Salto was saying that he's hoping for a celebration of some Bob Kulick stuff. So I just wanted to mention
that was a week ago. He made that comment, right? That was before the cruise took place.
Yeah, so it says 1 week. And all these comments that I'm reading 1 week ago. Mark Lehman. I'm sorry if I'm
That's why I left you to pronounce the names and not me. Yeah, exactly. You know me.
Bumbling and fumbling. Guess BK and the Mob will be the benchmark again. So a lot of comments were about Bruce. So, hey guys, you're on the air. How was the Bruce show?
So I'll say this. Obviously the person who made the comment.
I didn't say you could go first.
Well, I decided this time I'll go first since it's my show.
It is your show.
Don't get carried away here. All right? I gave you the keys to the kingdom for a little bit. No, I wanted to touch base on the comment that somebody left about giving a tribute to Bob. So I figured he would do a little tribute to Bob, maybe even one song or something like that. He actually, I thought it was really cool. He did like a half-hour set of Bob songs, one after the other, just like half of each song, whether it was All American Man, Larger Than Life, whether it was something that Bob wrote like Naked City. He did stuff off of Killers. I mean, he really kind of ran the table of everything really that Bob had done with Kiss for a half hour at that first show, which to me was really cool to see. And even to hear Bruce do his take of some of Bob's solos was cool.
So can I just mention the set list while we're talking about?
No, you're not allowed to. No, we don't want people to notice that list.
Listen, they're going to be mad at you, not me on that one. So
go ahead, of course.
I'm in the clear. All right, so they opened up with Exciter and Holy. And then they did a 3-block of Secretly Cruel all Night and Trial by Fire. Dreamin', which I think that's probably something rare that you don't hear often.
Yep.
And then they did a couple of Eric Carr, I guess a little tribute block to him, Eyes of Love and Can You Feel It? I don't know, Mike, you could probably, or the mics could speak to how many times that's ever been performed.
Never, and that was the highlight of the show for me.
Okay, cool. And Little Caesar, another Eric song, All Hell's Breaking Loose, Rockin' in the USA, and I guess this is when they're starting to go into the, kind of the Bob Kulick contributions, right? Yep. Larger Than Life, All American Man, Nowhere to Run, Tonight You Belong to Me, Naked City, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, I'm a Legend Tonight. Now I'm really regretting not going on the cruise. This is what makes me regret going on the cruise. And I told you when I saw Bruce that time, I was like, how can Burn Bitch Burn be a song that I'm actually thoroughly enjoying right now? And it's like,
I got to stop us for a second. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I might have to give up my daughter. She says to me on the cruise that she thinks she might like Burn Bitch Burn better than Detroit Rock City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a statement.
Never, those words have never been uttered before in that.
No.
Way,
she
ever.
loves the Animalize album, and actually she understands the tongue-in-cheek lyrics, and it's not meant to be taken serious. And when she said that to me, we were actually on our way to the indoor show, and I said to her, give me a ticket. That's it. I got to find somebody else to go with me. Give me a ticket. So anyway, you just mentioned Burn Bitch Burn. That came to mind on the.
Yeah.
So continue.
But though they didn't do it, at least in this, I didn't go to the next set, the next night. But just finishing off Goodbye and God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Man, this is some set list. I mean, if Kiss did this, forget it. There'd still be fireworks going off. I mean, but this is just an incredible set list. And as you guys know, this is an incredible band. This is not, they kind of do a somewhat good. This from every guy in that band, Todd and all the guys in the band. But
Brent and Zach,
this is Brent, Zach, awesome band. But you guys speak. Let's look at Mike Brunn on this. Let's get Mike Brenn's opinion.
I mean, what amazes me with Bruce and his band is each year they top themselves, and that's not easy, especially with critical people like us. They are, as a musician, Todd, it's incredible. Zach, incredible. Brent, incredible. And obviously Bruce is a beast on the guitar, and they're so tight. And the sets, there's a lot of quick changes when you're going from song to song, especially when they're doing some abbreviated versions. Mm-hmm. So, he opened with Exciter, and everybody kind of looks around like, whoa, okay, whoa, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Awesome song too.
Then the Eric stuff, some people were not too familiar with that. I think
I was going to ask you about that, Mike, because I noticed that too. I love those songs, but most of the people around me didn't know them.
Yeah, me too. I'm singing them, and other people are like, they don't know it, but they're into it.
Yeah.
But that's really deep. That's deep down the rabbit hole of Kiss.
And you can understand why a lot of fans don't know that stuff.
Yes.
People check out when it gets to the solo stuff, but I'm watching it, and as a guitar player, I'm positioned sort of closer to Bruce. I'm watching him, and I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. And that at that point, you're like, you know what? It's worth all the tests and everything we had to do to get here, because this is the meat and potatoes of the cruise. And then they played Goodbye, which Bruce kind of hinted at he was doing a Facebook Live a few days before, and he kind of played the riff here and there. And I'm thinking maybe he'll do that. And that to me is one of my favorite songs by the band, even though it's the solo album. And he pulled that out, and everybody's singing it because everybody knows it. It was amazing. And I mean, they just blew everyone away. I walked away from that like, man, now that is incredible. And it was a great time.
Yeah. And, I want to add to what you're saying, Mike, the fact of, and how good the musicians are in the band. Think about this. They did that set for Bob, 30 minutes it almost was, right? All those, like you said, from one song to another, the transitions from songs, they rehearsed all of that to play one time for us.
Yeah.
That's it. They didn't even do it the second show, right? The second show, they came back with a whole different set. They went through a big rehearsal for one show for us. And that to me just says the dedication of those three guys and Bruce and what they want to do for the fans, because the Eric Carr stuff, the Can You Feel It, Eyes of Love, that was gone in the second set. Dreamin', which I absolutely loved that they pulled that song out. I love that song from Psycho Circus, gone in the second set. So they rehearse all of these things to perform for us one time. And I think that's pretty freaking cool if you ask me.
And definitely. And, I might be saying something that's going to be highly controversial, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. You're wrong. It could be argued. It could be argued, I'm going to let that go, that Bruce Kulick may love Kiss fans more than Ace Frehley does in the fact that he will do something like that because what Ace's thing is. Well, if the money's right. If the money's right. That's kind of Ace's thing. And
look, I love Ace, and I wish Ace was in the band. I have nothing against Ace. But your comment, there's not even a discussion. There's nobody. I don't know that you can mention any other Kiss member and put him above Bruce and what he does for the fans. And that's just a compliment to Bruce.
And how much he loves the band, and how much he still loves Kiss.
But that's a compliment to Bruce, not a knock on the other guys. It's just that's Bruce takes it to a level that most musicians won't.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about he's had to witness the success since he, was asked to leave the band or whatever, however it was done, with the original members and then with another guitar player. Now it's been said, Bruce has said, well, I wouldn't really want it to have been that and put the makeup on. It's not me. It's not, okay, we'll believe him at that. But still, you still have to as much as Grand Funk Railroad's a great band. There's only one Kiss, you know what I mean? He's got to watch from the side for these opportunities here and there for indie conventions to be a part. And you never really see Bruce be anything other than Bruce, and just him always talking about the history of Kiss, especially the years. He was doing stuff on his website, remember, detailing. We were loving it. Every song and, recounting all the memories and, who played on what and how it was written or what guitar I used. I mean, us Kiss fans, we love that stuff, So for a guy who's not an original member, not even in the band anymore, but still gives his heart and soul to the band, and to do something like this, to me, speaks volumes of what this man is as not only a musician, but a human being. You know what I'm saying?
You made me remember a moment on the cruise. I think it was during the guitar riff thing, Mike. So I don't know if you picked up on this comment because you were probably off to the side of the stage. On the stage during the guitar riff was Jack Blades, Tommy Thayer, Jamie St. James, and I think their guitar tech Mark, right, and his guitar tech Mark, right. So they would, in between the contestants, they would talk a little bit, and Tommy made some comment about Paul Stanley. Nothing negative, obviously. Now, Tommy's never going to talk negative, but the way the sentence started, it sounded like it could potentially be negative. And I think it was Jack Blades said to him, "Tommy, be careful. Bruce Kulick's on this ship. You could still be replaced." I thought that was, I caught that. You did. Okay. I thought that was freaking hilarious. As you're talking about Bruce and the kind of guitar player he is, just that comment came into my mind. It was just a funny moment.
And again, you remember on Kiss Cruise 9, where they last minute asked Bruce to play on the Sail Away show.
Yep.
Right? And he was backstage or whatever with Tommy saying, "Hey, can I play that guitar? I like the string tension a little bit. He's going to be easy." And he was working, singing out. It's great that these two guys, there's no animosity. And as to what you've said, Tommy's a great guy, and it's wonderful because we hate hearing about, Ace is saying about Gene and this one. We don't ever want to hear that crap anymore. It's so tired, and I just so done with all that stuff. This is the stuff that we love to hear. The camaraderie with the guys, whether they're current members, ex-members, whatever it is. I mean, this is what we want as Kiss fans.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think one thing with Bruce is that whole era that he was in the band, 12 years there, that's a ton of music that the band doesn't touch on, that when I was growing up, that was my era. You know, I came in after, you know, Ace and Peter had left already. So that was me. The first new album I ever bought was Asylum, you know, and then that was the first version of the band I saw. And he brings that back and celebrates it. And so many people love that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, not that we don't love Cold Gin and Love Gun and all that, but
well, Mike does it. Mike doesn't love Cold Gin.
Cold Gin is boring as all hell to me.
Live, it's I wouldn't mind not hearing it again live.
Agreed.
But you don't hear All Night outside of, you know, what we heard, and then you don't hear any of these old classics. So I just he really pays homage to that time, and he still plays just as good as he did then. He's a beast. You know, I love Bruce on guitar. He was the first guy I would watch his fingers when I would rent the Animalize tape, and you know, rent it for a day, watch it, and try to teach myself guitar. He's just incredible, and he's you could really see that he enjoys the interaction with the fans, that he enjoys the fact that there's love for his era, and he plays it so well. So I mean,
So
that
Mike,
alone is a huge selling point for the
I agree. So I assume you went to the second Bruce show also, right, in the Stardust Theater?
Oh yeah. Yes,
oh yeah. Did you have a preference, show 1 or show 2 from Bruce?
Show 1 for the set, show 2 for just the fact that there wasn't wind blowing, you know, us all over the place. And I went in early, so I was elbows on the stage. I was right in front of, you know, just to the side of Bruce, right there on the stage. And, you know, like a gear nerd, checking out his pedal board, settings, all that.
I'd be doing the same thing.
And I'm like trying to snap pictures of his pedals and
stuff.
You
want to get his settings and stuff like that, right?
And so I'm watching him do the dance on the pedals. It, you know, it's just.
Oh, did he do his usual Bruce dance? Did he do his?
He did that a little bit. Yep. Vin, do you have the set list from the second night of Bruce?
I was going to say that, but I just want to mention one other thing about Bruce, because I think this is important, especially as us as Kiss fans, and his era. Because remember, when Bruce was in the band from officially, what was it, 84, right? Or is it 85? Well, Asylum was 85, right? So 84, so we could say to 95, right?
Yep.
Kiss was competing with the height of Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, you know, metal was at its height, right? And this was the guitar player for that Kiss band that was still trying to wave that flag saying, we still want to be competitive. Now, look, Kiss never kind of was able to match, you know, the Pour Some Sugar on Me's and the Girls, Girls, Girls and the height of those hits.
Wait,
you know
Read My
I mean?
Body wasn't as good as Pour Some Sugar on Me?
I know they tried. Yeah, bring in those wood blocks. We need that in the intro of the song. Anyway, so, but I think that's just an important thing to mention about Bruce and that time of what Kiss was, you know, because I know I think back at that era very fondly, as Mike does.
Yeah. No, I do too. So you have the set list, you said though, Vin, right, for the second show?
He's like, all right, that was good.
That's good. All right, so now get to
wow.
No, because Mike said he enjoyed show number 1 more, and I think my memories I enjoyed show number 2 more. But that's why I want you to read the set list.
I can't say that I enjoyed. I think just placement. The set list for 1 was a little more diverse.
Yep.
But then number 2 was equally amazing. So if we only had 1 show and show 2 was the only one we got,
it would be a 10.
Still, absolutely 10 plus.
I mean, outside of looking in at the set list,
yeah,
I'm going to go with set list number 1, me personally, but I'll read off set list number 2 now that I've made everybody wait. Exciter, Unholy, Tears Are Falling, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Thou Shall Not, Radar for Love / Making Love, Let's Put the X in Sex, You Make Me Rock Hard, Domino.
Mike, yeah, start doing those dances like Paul does in the video.
Yeah.
See the ambulance coming in.
Jungle, All Hell's Breaking Loose, Forever, Car Jam, Paralyze, I Just Wanna, Spit, and the Star Spangled Banner. To me, this is a no-brainer outside of looking in. I go all the way with the first set.
Really?
Just for the Bob Kulick stuff alone, and all that Paul Stanley solo stuff, and I don't know, the Eric Carr stuff, you know. I don't know. This looks like a no-brainer in my book.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with my show number 2. And if Dreamin' was in show number 2, I don't even know if it would be close for me. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is it about in the show number 2, Mike? I'm just curious. Mike.
So I love Who Wants to Be Lonely, right?
Okay.
So right off the top, that was in there. I happen to love Spit from Revenge. It's one of my top 3-4 songs on that album. So I was happy that he did that. Tears Have Fallen, even though Kiss does it, always happy to hear that. Radar for Love, although
no,
Radar for Love, although not a favorite of mine. That was a good deep cut. And I like the way they segued from Radar for Love to Making Love, because those are two, I'll say, very Zeppelin-y type Kiss songs in different ways, but they both have, Radar for Love is Black Dog, and Making Love to me was always a Communication Breakdown ripoff of the riff there. So to me, it made sense that those two segued into each other. I was like, thank you, Bruce. Somebody else hears what I hear, which I'm sure a lot of people do. Yeah, I'll say this. I loved the tribute to Bob. That was something I think that was even greater than I expected it to be. But I'd rather hear Bruce do Bruce's songs. So I think that's why I like the second set better. As much as I'll say what Mike said before. The first set was a 10. The second set was a 10. So now I'm choosing between a 10 and a 10. Which 10 do I like better? So, it's really split in hairs.
The fact of the matter is you guys had the opportunity to see both. There was no conflict. So you don't really even have to choose, right? I mean,
all right. So now
okay.
Let me talk about my friggin' sore point here. Man, I was not a happy camper, but not a happy cruiser. How about that?
I've seen Grouchy Brunn. It is
and
not
Brunn
fun.
was grouchy. Brunn was grouchy. So Mike and I had run into each other on the pool deck, I don't know, 3 o'clock or so, 4 o'clock the last day. And he says to me, oh, did you hear Night Ranger change their set? And it's earlier in the evening. So originally the last night was going to be Bruce Kulick from 7:45 to 9, and then Night Ranger from 9 to 10:15. So for me, it's like, what a perfect way to end the cruise. You get a set from Bruce, you get a set from Night Ranger. This couldn't be a better ending to the cruise. Then all of a sudden we would be sailing into bad weather, and they had to change Night Ranger's set, and they overlapped almost the entire thing with Bruce.
Oh.
And I was not. So now at this point, I've only seen Night Ranger one time. And I said to people on that boat, if Night Ranger was doing a cruise with a bunch of good bands around them, supporting them, I'd consider going on that cruise also. Right. I like Night Ranger.
You were a big fan in the 80s. I remember that.
So now I'm pissed. Now I'm possessed. In front of me is
possessed.
Now I'm possessed. Yeah, I became possessed.
You start spitting out vomit, your head starts twirling around.
No, at this point, I'm pissed that I have to choose between seeing Bruce a second time or Night Ranger a second time. And those were the two support acts I was looking forward to most. It's not like I'd seen both of them twice already. I'd seen both only once. And now for the second time, I have to choose between them. And then it was equally compounded by the fact that at 4:30 in the afternoon that day, I think it was 4:30, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon that day, Sebastian Bach originally was going to perform, but they canceled that performance. And they just moved Greg Cass into the Stardust Theater, who's supposed to perform at that same time as Sebastian Bach anyway. So now my blood starts to boil. I'm like, you know what? It's not like this storm probably didn't come out of nowhere. At 4 o'clock, they should have known that this storm was coming and moved Night Ranger to that time. Why am I left with a friggin' choice to now see only Night Ranger one time or Bruce Kulick only one time, when they're arguably, remember what I said about those meet and greet lines, and that's why I brought that up. More people were in line for Night Ranger than any other artist. And I was shocked. I figured Night Ranger was going to be playing to an empty stage on the pool deck, because I thought, like Mike did, went to the Bruce Kulick show early. I thought everybody on that boat was going to be a Bruce and that Night Ranger was going to be empty. And I said, you know what? I'm going to see the first couple of songs of Night Ranger. They said they were going to be doing a different set. I wanted to say it. I'm going to say for the first couple of songs, I'm going to make a beeline over to Bruce right before he starts. I hated having to, I've never walked out on a concert before that I was thoroughly enjoying like I had to on Night Ranger. I'm like, this sucks. Oh, I was so pissed. So pissed. Bruce made up for it by putting on a great show. And another reason I enjoyed the second show more, and we didn't say this, Eric Singer jumped on stage with him and did Domino, which is the first time, well, no, actually in Indy they played together, but it's the first time on the cruise that the two of them have performed together. So I was excited about that. So kind of,
I mean, separate from Kiss.
Separate from Kiss, right.
Yeah,
but Bruce and right, exactly, separate from Kiss.
Yeah.
So that kind of took the sting away from having to leave Night Ranger, but I was still friggin' pissed over that, and still have a little bit of anger. You know, you can't. Those are your two biggest support bands. You can't. And I know it's out of their control, the weather, But at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when you see weather is not looking good and Sebastian Bach's not on the show, on the boat, you take his show and you give it to Night Ranger at that time, unless they couldn't for some reason that I don't know about, right?
Which we don't know for sure.
But we didn't have any bad weather though. Did you
No,
notice any bad weather when
no,
we came
that
out
was
of
the
Bruce?
that was the worst part of it all. There was no friggin' bad weather at all. So that just put a little salt in the wounds. But that evening I was talking to Eric Levy, who, you know, Vin, you know, he worked with you on one of your songs. He knew who I was or whatever. I'm talking to Eric Levy and he's like, Mike, we came very close to having to cancel that show, actually. There was a lot of discussion about, and so that kind of softened it. I'm like, all right, at least I got to see 3 or 4 songs instead of 0 songs. But I was like, this is just not good plan.
Canceling it because of what?
What was that?
He said we were close to canceling it. Why?
They almost had to cancel the Night Ranger.
Oh, they
show.
did. They almost, and not Night Ranger themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Big time. But I was happy at least that they didn't. Six-Man had told them that they might have to cancel the show because of the so-called weather.
Okay, so you both didn't get to really see the second show, but did you both see the first show of Night Ranger?
Yes.
I did. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that. How was that?
Well, I'll say this to preface that. Mike had told me when we were at Black and Blue how much of a fan he was of Night Ranger. And I know the songs, but I had I'd never seen them live. So I went in, you know, well, if Mike speaks highly of them, we share.
Then they must suck.
No. I'm like, let me go check them out. So I check out the show and I was sort of standing off to the side a little bit. And I was pleasantly surprised. They were fantastic. I mean, I know their side projects. I know, some of the hits, and I know Brad Gillis as a guitar player, is one of the original, shredders. But man, they were amazing. And I heard songs that I didn't know that I've since downloaded, a bunch of their stuff, the new album, everything. And then they did Damn Yankees, and that I knew. I'm like, man, this is great. So I was really looking forward to the second show. And I, like you, thought we'll have Bruce and then Night Ranger. That's going to be an awesome final night. And when I heard the news, I was bummed. But then I'm like, man, Mike is not going to like this because, I mean, you really do like that. And I see why. They were phenomenal. They really were phenomenal.
I put them probably, for me, one of the top 5 live bands I've ever seen.
Oh,
I can see that.
I think the Jack Blaze, I think, is a great front man. I love when bands are on stage having fun. And to me, they're up on stage always having fun. Right. And that's what I love.
And they got the drummer up front. Like, who else does that? Right. That, to me, as a drummer, is like the coolest thing. It's like, Kulick, or Kagi, however you pronounce his name. That's pretty damn awesome,
And the new stuff, I mean, they have a new song, Breakout, which is, I'll say, heavy for Night Ranger. It's a heavier song. It's not like a ballad or anything like that. Their new stuff really rocks. The second show, Mike, they opened up with from Midnight Madness, Touch of Madness, which the whole last 30, 45 seconds of that, when they do it live, it's heavy, it rocks. I'm like, God, oh man, it killed me to walk away from that show. Killed me. But Bruce made up for it, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I really, you convinced me to check them out, and I went there and did, and I was really happy with it. When they were done, I'm like, man, that's good. I want to see them again now. I want to go and see them in a proper venue where,
to that point, I've actually contemplated. I just found out this morning that they're playing in Pennsylvania, like 2 hours from me on Sunday night, and I'm like,
really?
So stay tuned. Wilkes-Barre? Wilkes-Barre. Yeah, Wilkes-Barre. So I'm like, we'll see. So I don't know. Anyway, I might have to make up for that. We'll see. But anyway, so that was so you were saying about choosing to see shows. That was a huge choice that I had to make, which will nag at me for quite some time.
So, okay. So I know there was a couple other things that were supposed to, we mentioned about the Sebastian Bach. He was on the boat, but I had heard they had some sort of like all-star jam. So guys, tell me about what that was about. Because that sounds like that was kind of unplanned. They kind of made up for this. Is that?
Yeah, I'll cool off for a minute, Mike. You go first while I cool off.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it looks like Sebastian's band got on, but just he didn't. So they were up there and they had, it was like a classic rock, sort of classic metal jam that, as the night went on, more and more people started showing up because it was really good. So Sebastian's band is top flight. The guitar player, not sure of his name, but he's definitely on point. And then they brought out Brad Gillis, they brought out Jack Blades, they brought out the singer from Liliac, they brought out oh God, a couple other people from the other bands, the Talisman, and they put on a great show. Todd LaTorre, I think, got up with them at least at one of the jams.
Jack and Todd and Bruce joined on the second show.
Second show. Jack wasn't the first one?
No, not on the first one, but you're spot on, Mike. I mean, and I'll share a great story. So like Mike said, you know, people didn't know what to expect from this. And I actually thought it was going to be Sebastian Bach's band doing Skid Row songs with somebody else, maybe one of them singing it. And I was like, that doesn't really thrill me. But we had finished eating in the buffet and we were like, all right, well, let's just, let's go check it out. And I get out there and I forget what song they were doing. It's immaterial. But, you know, like Mike said, some of the guys from the Talisman were on saying, like, this is good. I'm going to stand there and watch. So as I'm standing there watching, right behind me, Brad Gillis walks by. And you can see him walk to like stage right where like the you know, different musicians usually hang out watching. He's over there just hanging out watching, and then he disappears. So I'm like, oh, that was cool. Brad was also enjoying this as much as the fans. The reason I share this story is because, like Mike hit the nail on the head, I think that as this was happening, the word of mouth is like, hey, this is cool. You should go check it out. Or people maybe texting a friend, hey, come out here and check it out. I think Brad was watching it, was like, this is pretty freaking cool.
I want to be a part of this.
I think he ran up to his room, his cabin, and got his guitar. Okay, because when they call him on stage, Mike, if you remember this, the guitar player from Skid Row was like, this guitar has been played by, I forget who it was, this person and that person, and now it's going to be played by Brad Gillis. Come on up. And Brad comes up with his own guitar. And he was like,
with the red guitar?
Yeah, with the red guitar. Yeah. And then the guy was like, oh man, it's on it. You know?
That's awesome.
But my point is, I think Brad was so taken by how cool this was. I think he ran up to his cabin. Was like, I got to go get my guitar. I want in on this.
So it really was cool. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Can you give me an idea of like what songs they played, like covers and stuff like that? Do you remember?
They played Highway to Hell, I think, was at the first one. They played Whole Lot of Love. The singer from Liliac came out and did some Sabbath and Dio. And the way her stage moves are, I mean, I think at that point is kind of where people were like, wow, this is really going from more than a jam to like, this is an experience. And I do know they finished up with Motley Crue. And then Mike, I don't know if you
what did Brad play on? I'm just curious now. What did Brad play
Crazy
on?
Train, and then they did Tush.
Oh, awesome.
From ZZ Top.
For Brad, I mean, that might be the first time he's done Crazy Train live since he was with Ozzy.
Right. The whole thing, right. With Night Ranger, they do like a little like 30-40 second part of it usually. But yeah, he played the whole thing. He played the solo, note for note. And then he kind of, gave a tip of the hat to Dusty passing away. And they did like a 6-7 minute version of Tush, which was, again, just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was going strong. And I mean, you could see people really getting into it and dancing.
Yeah.
And then the lights were turned off. Do you remember that around 11:15?
Well, yeah, they played Live Wire by Motley Crue, which went over very well. And then they started doing Shout at the Devil, right? And like you said, Mike, the lights went off. So go ahead, you pick it up from here, Mike.
So it just so happens, in my opinion, but they're like, oh, they're telling us there's a curfew or whatever.
Curfew? What is the fucking water gonna go play?
No, curfew. Whose cabin is just above that stage?
Yes. Paul and Gene. Paul and Gene. Yep. And it's 11:15 at night at this point.
Actually, Paul took a photo in his cabin, right? I guess as we were getting off the boat, and it's right above that stage. So I
remember seeing that photo.
Star Child needed his nap time, so that was it. I'm assuming that's what it was. But yeah, there's no curfew. I've seen those shows go on well beyond midnight.
That's what I was gonna say. We went to a couple of shows, Mike. Remember, it was way past midnight, and they were playing. I forgot what's
Well, I'll say this: I was getting hungry at that point. I had not eaten dinner yet, so after Live Wire, I said to my wife and my daughter, "Let's go grab a bite to eat. This is a lot of fun, but let's go grab a bite to eat." So we started walking by the soundboard, and it was right then when they started doing Shout at the Devil. But I instantly can tell, as the guitars aren't loud. They pull the plug. And you could see and hear somebody up at the soundboard saying, let them go, let them continue going. And I don't know if it was a 6-man person, if it was a Norwegian person, a KISS person, I have no idea who it was. They said, they're done, 11:15, it's over. So the bands definitely wanted to play, but there was somebody there that pulled the plug on him. But you could actually hear like, dan, dan, dan. You could hear like the Shout at the Devil chords a little bit. And then they just had to stop and everybody's boo, boo. And people were making comments, what curfew on a boat? There's no curfews here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But somebody pulled the plug on the show, unfortunately.
And let's, we don't know for sure that it was Pagine and Paul, so let's not, say it was definitely them.
That's
although,
my opinion.
to Mike Wren's point, logic dictates that, that maybe they needed his cat nap or catnip or whatever the heck he needed. So, yeah.
So, I'm going to say this. One of the things I love about the Kiss Cruise is, think about this now. We've been talking for what, 70 minutes so far? 75 minutes? 80 minutes, whatever it is. I think
you're being conservative on that number.
I don't know. Well, we'll see. First we spoke about your guitar collection and Mike's guitar collection, right?
That's
so
true.
Once we started recording,
about an hour and a half.
It's about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Yeah.
What have we not even spoke about 90 minutes in?
Yeah.
The indoor Kiss shows. The indoor Kiss shows.
That's right.
And that to me, so people watch online and they make their comments about this and that. And if you're not on the boat, you're missing the point. And look, I'm the first one to say I can't wait for the deep cuts on the indoor shows. That's one of the highlights for me. But we just spent 90 minutes talking about all these fun, amazing things. And we haven't spoke about the guitar riff with Mike. And I want to make sure we cover that. We never discussed at all. And I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but they had Family Feud with Kiss, which was a lot of fun, right? They had the Newlywed Game with Gene Simmons and Shannon Tweed, which was a lot of fun. And Eric Singer was up there, right? We have spent 90 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever it is, talking about, and we haven't even spoke about the highlight, the headline of the cruise. Yep. That is why, to me, these things are just so much fun, because there's so much going on. There's so many different things to get excited over. And I think, to me, this first 70, 80, 90 minutes, whatever it is, we've already proven that, because we haven't spoke about excursions or Kiss shows and with makeup. We spoke about everything else but. And we're Mike and I are both like, oh, but then what about this? Oh, what about that? Oh, this was great. And this was a highlight. And that to me is what makes the Kiss Cruise so damn great.
So do we want to talk about because the people should know they do 2 shows. Yep. And a lot of times there might be a slight change or alteration. I know you and I, you always say you go to the second show. That's what you do. But yes. Let's talk about the set, what they wound up doing in the first set. If I could just rattle off the songs.
Go ahead.
Fans around. We have Psycho Circus. We have Take It Off, Watching You, Firehouse, She's So European. Wow. Oh, where did that come from?
Yep.
Lick It Up, We Are One, Cold Gin, your favorite, Mike. Yes. All Night. Another. I was surprised to see that.
Me too.
I Love It Loud. Say Yeah. War Machine, Black Diamond, Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll Night. Much of the same of what they usually do. Right. But the She's So European and All Night and Take It Off.
And We Are One. Those are the big 4
and We
to
are
me.
One.
Right.
Yeah.
Those were the big 4 to me.
Right.
Mike, did you go to the first show or the second show?
Second show.
That's what I thought. Okay.
All right. So now, Mike, let me set the stage for you. You're in the lobby watching this show, right? Or not the lobby.
Cabin. You in the cabin or the lobby?
Cabin.
So does a 4-letter word come out of your mouth every time one of these songs come out, like that you're not hearing this, or you're like,
yeah. There's a whole lot of 4-letter words like holy, and holy,
yeah.
And
you're allowed to say. You're allowed to say.
Yes.
I don't know what the rules are. So, but yeah, they were uttered each time, and I'm typing away to a couple friends of mine who aren't on the boat. I'm like, you're not gonna believe this.
Yeah.
And, and the feed into the rooms is not great. It's like like they're filming it with a VHS camera from 1983 up on the poop.
Yeah.
But you hear enough and you get enough that you're like, whoa. So as Mike said earlier, I did not expect Rare Tracks, knowing that they were on the road up until recently, then, all the things that happened in the interim, there really was no time for them to rehearse. So I assumed we're going to get the standard set list with maybe a few things thrown in, and maybe the Sail Away show being electric kind of took the place of that. Yep. And I was prepared for that. So when Take It Off comes out, I'm like,
which was the second song that night.
Was it the second? I'm listening. Like,
second song.
Am I hearing that?
Mm-hmm.
And then She's So European. I said, all right. Well, I don't know what's happening here. And then We Are One, and all the other stuff thrown in, and then All Night, which to me, all of them sounded good. Outside of the fact that Gene, sang it like, his verse started in the chorus and and all that, but that's fine.
Gene was doing the radio edit of the song, is what I said.
Yeah.
he was playing the disco.
Well, Gene's
version
notorious of that, right? He's
Exactly.
notorious for
Yes.
Oh yeah, and he did that even in. I want to say he did that in one of the standard songs. I think Watching You, he screwed the lyrics up completely.
Yes, he did on the second night, right? The second night,
Yeah.
I think he screwed up Watching You also.
But yeah, I'm watching in the cabin, and I'm just like, all right, wow.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter that I wasn't in there. I'm watching it happen live. I'm listening to it, and I'm hoping, well, I'm gonna get this tomorrow night. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be. But I will not complain. Do you want me to get into the second night, or?
Yeah, go.
Well,
yeah, I'm curious, Mike, since you were only at the second night, were you disappointed that they dropped 3 of those 4 songs?
I wouldn't say disappointed. I'd say disappointed. It just wouldn't be disappointed. I was a little unhappy, but they threw in All the Way, Making Love. Did they throw in?
Yep.
Love? So and I was content because I'm, 3 people from the stage.
Right.
I'm in a theater. It's been 2 years since we last did this. Nothing was going to bring me down. And again, I saw it the night before, so I'm content with that fact. And knowing that everybody was videotaping it, that I will watch it from 20 different angles, 20 different times.
That's the wonderful thing about this generation with cell phones, that you basically don't miss anything. And I guess that's to the point you would say, Mike, earlier, do you regret? I'm like, yeah, but however, I can go back and, watch these videos. Yeah, I know what it's like to be in that room in the Stardust Theater. And I told you that first time I was there, and one of my highlights of my concert going career was here in Strutter. The hairs were lifting off my arms. I was like, this is fucking great. Like to hear it, and the sound in that room is so good without all the pyro. And as much as I love all that stuff, but it's just a totally cool experience seeing Kiss with the makeup on, without the pyrotechnics. You know what I mean? It's just not, again, I love the pyro and all the lights and all the pods and all the stuff.
Unless you've been on a cruise, you cannot understand what you're talking about here, right? That experience in that Stardust Theater, the sound is amazing. You're so close. It's intimate. It's really second to any Kiss show. And I've seen Kiss at the Whiskey, and I would say the cruise shows were better just because there's something about the sound in there, the excitement in there that just can't be topped anywhere.
And
Definitely.
like you said, Mike said it earlier, for the people from overseas, this show, this cruise, they weren't able to be there, but you had said to me, Mike, watch what happens when they do Detroit Rock City. I'm like, well, oh, they sing the solo. And when it happened, I'm like, wow, this has never happened at a Kiss concert. Right. Although on the last tour, there was a couple of people I was starting, well, not couple, but you heard some more of that starting to kind of inject it to the Kiss shows.
It's taken us Americans, 45 years, but we're coming around to doing that also.
Yeah, exactly. It's such an awesome moment.
It is.
We're getting there.
It is.
Well, I guess the good thing is that even though you get to choose which show you want to be at, you do get to see it from either your room or in whatever the main area is called. Again,
the atrium. The
atrium. Yeah. So it's not like you're shut out, and it's kind of a cool vibe because they do put, from what I remember, they do put chairs. You can sit and watch it. You can, and people, even in the atrium, they'll be cheering and they'll be into it as if they are seeing it live right in front of them. So it is still like a cool experience.
One of my top 5 cruise experiences is the first year they did Eye on the Cruise. And I was watching in the atrium, and Stanley starts introducing the song, saying, hey, we're going to do a song from an album nobody owns. And we start looking at people in the atrium, will start looking at each other like, could it be? And he mentions the Elder, and we're like, holy crap. Oh, no, it wasn't Eye, it was the Oath. And then he starts the riff, and literally you saw people getting down on their knees, bowing to the screen. And it's just a sight I will never forget. My son, who was very young at the time, was on the cruise with me, and he's like, what's going on? Why is everybody acting this way? But it was just such a natural reaction that honestly, I'm sure inside the theater, people were going crazy, but people were able to act a little bit differently in the atrium because it's an open space, and you get down on your hands and knees and bow to a screen or whatever. That is probably an experience I will never forget as long as I live. And I wasn't at the show, I was watching in the atrium. So even though you're not sometimes in the show, the experience of being on that boat and singing it in those settings is unlike anything else. So yeah. So,
and that's to that point when right after that set, maybe a half hour after the first show finished, I think I took a shower or something. I come out of the room, and who's walking by but Keith? Keith LaRue's walking by, and he's, you know, always working. He's constantly working.
Yep.
And he goes, "How'd you like that show? What was your highlight?" And I'm like, "Where do you start?"
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
as you, to your point, where even though you're not at the show, you're on the boat, so you're sort of in that circle, and you're having that conversation with other fans immediately. You
Yep.
know, it's not like the next day on Facebook or something. You're there, so everybody's hyped up, and it's still that super exciting moment where you're sharing that with people that may have been there or they watched it like you.
Yep.
And you know, I'm talking with Keith. He's like, "Hey, what do you think? She's so European, right?" I'm like, "Dude, you know, I'm just speechless, and I'm,
Yeah.
you know, on a high, walking out to the buffet probably, and
Yeah.
you know, and you're talking to people, even in the elevator. You get in, and you're like, "Were you at the show? Did you watch? Did you see that? What? Wow!" And you know, it's a really unique feeling that if you're not on the boat, you just don't get. It doesn't translate well to when you're home reading it on a you know, a Facebook page or something.
Agreed. And you know, look, obviously She's So European. We've made reference to Gene jumping the gun a few times, and it was a little bit of a train wreck at times.
Yeah.
And you know, I videoed the song, and you know, I had the phone like over here, and I'm watching, and you know, I had the phone actually centered on Gene, but I'm watching Paul during the second verse, like right after the first chorus, and Paul is looking at Gene, and I didn't capture this on the video because I'm watching Paul, but again, videoing something else. And Paul's like keeps shaking his head no to Gene, like, "No, you're not right, you're not right." And in that moment, I thought Paul was going to stop the song. Actually,
Oh,
you don't
really?
catch any of that on the video because you just see Gene singing, and then eventually I pan over to Paul. But I actually thought Paul was going to try to stop the song because you could just see Paul was not happy. Like Paul was like still like a few chords off of what Gene was singing or whatever. But Tommy and Eric kind of kept it together. And I think eventually Paul just, I'll say, gave in and realized I better go with this because the band's going without me at this point.
Yeah.
But at the end of the song, and I caught this part on the video, Paul turns around to Eric, and my daughter and I both picked this up, and he mouths to Eric, "Wow." So if you didn't notice that, go back and watch my video. And as soon as the song ends, you'll see Paul turn around and go to Eric and just say, "Wow." You can see like Paul was like, "That was a disaster." That song, I was certainly not surprised or shocked that they didn't do the second night, because I could just see Paul was not happy with the way that went down. I wish I would have caught Paul's reaction during that second verse. There's got to be another video up there somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
Check it out. It was it's one of my memories of being in the theater that night is just watching Paul during that second verse be like, "Gene, no, you're messing this up." And like you can see almost like a worry on Paul's face. But the rest of the band to me pulled it off. And you know, if Paul wasn't reacting that way, I know Gene jumped the gun, but I probably wouldn't even remember it, to be honest with you. So it wasn't perfect. Who cares? Who cares?
I mean, that's where that's for. If that's at a sold out garden show, okay, different story.
Different story.
But
Agreed.
for the cruise, it's meant to be, you know,
Agreed.
like the unplugs were, the conventions were years ago, kind of just fun. So
yeah, it did not matter to me.
Yeah, nobody in the crowd complained.
Yeah. And Kiss fans eat that stuff up. They don't care about the mistakes. They just the fact that, oh my God, they're doing She's So European, you know?
Yep.
Like, to me, it makes them seem more human and whatever. Yeah. So it's like, you know, whatever, who cares? And I'll say this, I was shocked when they did We All One. I've been saying they should do that in the acoustic sailaway shows for years. And the fact they did, and I said, all right, that's never going to happen. So when they started playing that song, I was stunned, to be honest with you. And I thought it sounded really good. I don't know why they dropped that one. I thought that sounded really, really good. Even at the end of the song, if I remember right, Paul goes over to Gene, fist bumps him. It was, and the crowd, when they started doing that, erupted. Yeah. The crowd was really excited. So I'm not sure why they dropped that one. I thought that one came across really, really well.
So
I didn't see any issues with it.
No,
listening to it anyway.
Yeah.
I should mention to you, Mike Brunn, when I went to the Setlist FM site to grab the set list, and it's just a little article on Kiss Cruise 10. If you scroll down underneath the second set list for, it's actually after the first, the October 31st, the Halloween show. Okay. Right underneath is a video, your video for She's So European that they have on there.
That's weird.
They're sharing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
isn't that Ultimate Classic Rock? I think.
Ultimate Classic Rock, I know, shared it, and shared actually today. They ran an article, Ultimate Classic Rock, about the top 5 Kiss Cruise moments,
Yeah.
and all 5 were from my videos. So, which I thought was kind of cool. Which I was like, all right, Mike Brunn's top 5 cruise videos.
But I understand why it's probably not saying, because I'm scrolling on your video and just says Mike Brunn. When I go to the other guy's video, it says subscribe, but I guess because I already subscribed to yours, because I was about to say, hey, why is it there? Why aren't they encouraging people to subscribe to your thing? But I think that's really awesome that
that is cool. I didn't even know
we were
about
just
that.
talking about that, and I'm like, that logo looks familiar. Who did that logo? Oh, that's right.
That was you. That's right. Now, Mike, what did you think about All Night? Right? I thought that sounded good as well.
It sounded good. It was different because it was tuned so much lower.
Yes.
I noticed that.
That was the first thing my daughter said. She's like, how many steps down are they tuned? I remember saying that.
It was like, All Night. Just way down.
You notice steps that Rocky ran up?
Yeah.
Tumbled all the way down there. I mean, I didn't complain. I thought it was good. It was unique in that register that he was singing in, and he didn't sing with the same melody at some parts. Same for Take It Off, but understood. But I liked it. It was just like, wow, this is cool. This is interesting. I'm enjoying it. Me
too. I'll say this. I was surprised, and I'll even say disappointed that they dropped We Are One and All Night for the second show. I understood She's So Your Opinion. Although I wouldn't have dropped it, I understand their thought process.
Agreed.
I didn't understand why they would drop We Are One or All Night. And I'll say this. Mike is saying the perfect thing, right? When you're on the boat, be happy, whatever, and that experience. But I guarantee there were some people that felt gypped. I don't know how else to say it.
I had someone that was working there in a capacity with Kiss. I won't say who, but someone who was sort of adopted by them to do some work on the boat. After the show, he comes up to me, he goes, man, you got screwed. I go, no, not really. I said, listen, I'm 10 feet, 8 feet from the stage. I'm enjoying an intimate show, and I got to see some rare tunes. All the ways rare. Making Love doesn't happen often. Firehouse hasn't been played. Well, I don't know.
For a while.
Whatever they did. Yeah. So I wasn't complaining at all, but I get it. Some people, if you had to compare, the set list from night one was the more unique one. But I'm the kind of, look, I've seen Kiss so many times. I'm just happy to be in the room, especially after the last 2 years we've had. So he's
got the best attitude, this guy.
He does.
He really does. Because so many, and every time I say that, and let me just before you say that, because so many fucking Kiss fans bitch and moan about every little thing, And go ahead,
But and to that point, they'll be the same people that, oh man, I can't believe the band's gone. I want to see them more. Like, listen, none of this is promised, so enjoy every minute of it. The one complaint I have, and it's not Kiss, it's the layout in the venue. Just from my example, so I got a bump up with my ticket for show 2 in that lottery that Sixth Man did. So I was right behind the pit, and if you haven't been there, so the pit is like a semicircle in front of the stage. It's only about as you widen out to the center of the stage, it's maybe 4 people deep, 5 people deep, and it thins out on the sides. Above that is like that theater type seating where each level is a step higher. So I was the first row behind that, which they have a bar in front of you, and those bars have a little space that's maybe 3 feet wide. That's your quote unquote seat. So I was 7A. So I was directly like in front of Tommy's little pod there on the side, and I'm getting ready to watch the show, and in comes this poor woman. She had to be 5'2". And
I saw your post about this. I read it to my family. I was like, you guys have to read this. So I'm so glad you're sharing this story. Go ahead, Mike.
And that's been my only complaint is she's 5'2" and her spot is directly behind me. So I see her come in, and I look, and I don't know her, and she's got Tommy, spaceman makeup on. I go, listen, let's switch. You go in front of me. And she's like, why? And I'm like, do you want to look at my back the whole show, or do you want to see the band? I mean, and she's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And, so she goes in front of me, and she ends up telling me she's only seen the band. The first time was in 2019, and she became a diehard. So she went from first seeing Kiss in 2019 to now being on her second cruise. So that's pretty hardcore. And she was totally into it and dancing and everything. And I'm like, I could see other people around me not affording the person behind them that opportunity. That, I think, the seating I know it's difficult for six man. They're not going to ask for your height and address it that way. But that's the thing I see at concerts. That and when people, grown adults, will tackle children to get a pick. And that happened to her. The people next to me went after this pick, and I threw an elbow out and kind of knocked this guy over and put my foot by the pick. And the girl in front of me got the Tommy pick. And then she tries to hand it to me. And I said, no, it's you. That's yours. And I don't know. That's my one gripe is seeing adults act foolishly. And it's not unique to Kiss, but in our experience with the picks and things, that's how it goes. And I saw that again at the Bruce show, where it got into a scrum right behind me. And I wanted to put my foot on somebody's head because the younger gentleman that was next to me, he was tall, but he was younger. He was going after the pick, and these guys were like basically trying to smack it away from him. And that's the only thing. And again, it's not a Kiss Cruise thing. It's just that theater and it's that setup. But all throughout the cruise, I'm aware of my height, and I try to accommodate people behind me as best I can, and shift and move. But I felt so bad for that girl. She came in and she's going to see between my shoulder blades for the entire show. So thank you.
And it is a great story, but to me, as great as that story is, I'm not gonna say it's a greater story, but let's talk about Mike Brunn and the contest that he entered into. Because I did see, we're Facebook friends, and I think I saw it on Facebook where he did like a 9-minute video. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. It was around a 9-minute video
probably
of you, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I sat and watched the whole thing. I wanted to see all the riffs and all the different things he was going to play, and I just said to myself, this guy's going to win, because Mike, I'm a critical bastard when it comes to technique.
Yes, you are.
And sound. And
very critical, even of yourself.
And myself, more so for myself. But most bands that I'm in, I'm the band leader, or I'm orchestrating all the sets and doing anything. Anyway, enough about me. But I could just tell that this he's got it. You could just hear it. You could see the confidence, his body language, and even to the point where I watched the video of the actual performances on the ship, like the confidence that he had playing. But I want Mike to talk about, what did it feel like going up on that stage? You got Tommy Thayer, you got Jamie St. James is his name, correct? Yep. You had
Jack Blades.
Jack Blades, thank you. And there was one other guy who I wasn't sure who that was.
Mark, I think his name is Norman. He is Bruce's Tommy's tech, and used to be Brad Gillis's tech. He's a I've played guitars that he set up. Wow.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
So the first question I have is, you played a Les Paul. So that I was like, because I've seen you play. I mean, you got a beautiful guitars. Was that your choice to play the Les Paul? Were you doing that like as an Ace thing, like Kiss thing, Tommy thing, or they're like, here's a Les Paul?
So to I guess when I got there, nobody knew what we were going to do. There was 10 of us, and nobody, even the people running it, as of 12:30. It started at 1. At 12:30, they're like, we're not sure what the format's going to be. We'll talk to Tommy when he gets here. So we had no idea. But on the stage,
talk about that preparation.
And some guys brought their own guitars, and I'm thinking, oh man, so maybe I didn't take this serious enough. To me, it was just fun, And the video I sent in was only 1 minute, which I tried to send a longer video in, and it failed for size, so I just cut it down to 1 minute. It was just a couple different Kiss riffs, but they pointed at the stage. They said, you'll have a choice of 2 guitars, an SG or the Les Paul. Don't touch the amp. Everything's mic'd up and ready to go. Just hit the tuner to mute it. Plug in and then unmute and then go for it. So I chose a Les Paul.
Let me stop you right there. Because as a guitar player, and I know as a guitar player, bass player, feel, action, all that stuff set up is very particular to each individual. So you get this guitar, you get it in your hands. Are you like, okay, I'm comfortable with this? Are you like, oh man, the action's higher or lower than I would like? Like, what was your immediate feel when you got the guitar in your hand?
The first issue, and I had it in my hand, it was shared by everybody. So I went up on stage, put it on, and had to start within 20 seconds. So my first issue was the strap was set up for like a 4'8" person. So I'm playing it like a ukulele up here. And it was no time to adjust it because they're like, let's go. But the setup was good. And so long as it's loud, I'm good. I mean, I played so many different types of guitars that It wasn't like super heavy gauge strings or anything like that where it was ridiculous. It just felt all right. So I figured, let me just wing it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no literally I went 10th out of the first 10. So, I just listened. I couldn't even see the other guys because of where they had us set up. We were behind the stairs, so I couldn't see anything. I could just hear it. But I'm like, some people were going for the Van Halen type tapping or showing off. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, these guys are old school players. So they're more about pocket and feel and maybe timing and rhythm and stuff. So let me just keep it simple. And luckily the guitar, it was a Les Paul Studio, but it was set up nice. And the amp was a JCM, I think 800. Set pretty hot, but not too much. And, I got a mask on, so
yeah.
the mask is riding up. So I look like some freak. And the guitar's up here. I'm like, this is probably not going to end well. But so they just said, I guess you have 30 seconds. Go.
So going through the process, you're hearing everybody. See, I thought it was like you were there to play Kiss riffs. This could have been anything. So you're telling me, right?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be. I figured they would go, listen, give us your three bests, or try give us Watching You or whatever. But they were like, wow us.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds. So, like I do with the videos I put on Facebook, I just kind of, what I do is I sit down and plug in and just play. And in my, I'm not going to play full songs usually. I just jump from song to song with whatever pops in my head. There's no plan.
So there was no plan. You're 10th, you're going up, you've heard everybody else playing. You're like, all right, I know I'm going to start probably with this one, but then whatever I feel going next, boom, boom, boom. Is that how you kind of just played it out in your head?
In my head, I figured I thought of 5 or 6 different songs to start with. And then when I went up there, it kind of just went blank. And I just kind of hit the strings and said, all right, this sounds good. Go. I don't even know what I played first, but I do know that I threw in Tommy's song Out of This World.
Yeah,
because I do like that song. I play that often. It's one of the.
You got a good reaction out of him. I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, this could go either way. In my head, I'm like, this might not be a good idea because he could just look at that and go, "You pandering idiot! Why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
But I could see that, and again, I'm in front of Tommy Thayer. I'm in front of a couple hundred people, and to my left is Jamie St. James, Mark, Tommy, and Jack Blades. And in my head, I'm like, this is insane. I mean, to my left is quite a bit of music knowledge and experience and history. And I'm this tool with a mask on and this oddly positioned guitar.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't remember what else I played. I've watched the video since, but
let me add a perspective from the crowd for a moment. So like Mike said, he went 10th, and I noticed the judges for the guitar thing and even for the drum thing were very tough on the participants. The drum things, people were getting 3s and 4s and 5s. Some of the guitarists were getting 5s and 6s. It's not like these judges were just handing out 10s. And I noticed that at the guitar thing, that the guys who were doing the best were the ones that brought their own guitar. And I was wondering, not being a guitar player, right? I was wondering if that was playing into it, because I noticed that whether it was the sound, the feel, whatever it was, that those guys seemed to be doing best. And I knew Mike had told me, because we had spoke about it, that he didn't have his own guitar. He was just going to go up there, play guitar. So I'm going to say, nervous for Mike, not that I was sitting there, I wasn't like shaking or anything, but I was like, I am poor Mike. This is probably not going to play out to his advantage, because I'd seen the 9 contestants beforehand and I saw which ones the judges liked. So Mike comes up there with the guitar set up like a ukulele, and I'm thinking to myself, well, hey, Mike had a cool experience, so and I'm thinking for myself, Mike's kind of playing behind the 8 ball here, because he's not playing his own guitar. I've seen what these other guys, what they were looking for. Nothing to do with skill. This is all about just the instrument itself for the moment. I'm thinking, well, good luck, Mike. And then he goes, and the second you started playing Out of This World, Tommy turned to Jack. He's like, that's my song, with a big grin. And I'm like, Mike nailed it. Mike nailed it. He absolutely freaking just nailed it. So continue now. I wanted to give you that experience from the crowd looking at it and what it was like looking at it from that.
Oh, that's I wanted to hear that, actually, because I when you're doing that, it's kind of just flying by.
Sure.
And I haven't been up on stage playing guitar in years, and I've never played it in that type of situation. But yeah, I thought I saw these guys. I think there were 2 or 3 that came with their own instruments, and everybody was cool back. I don't want to say backstage, but wherever we were, talking, hey, good luck, good luck. There was one guy that wasn't, and and he went up there and tanked. And he's like, yeah, I got this. And then went up there, and as soon as he was done, he stormed off. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. But
nice job.
Yeah, it was like, oh, bye. But
yeah,
everybody was cool. And but I did think, the guys that have their own instruments, I mean, you play an instrument enough, you know, it's second nature. You know every bit about it. But Les Pauls are my thing, so I figured, well, that works in my favor. And then I couldn't see the scores of the other people. So, you know, I heard the cheers. They seemed a little louder for me, but you know, it's also my perspective on the stage. I didn't hear them from that level before. But then when they pulled out the scorecards, I'm like, whoa. So I think the first round was 10s across the board.
Straight 10s, I thought you got, right?
And how many rounds did you wind up going? Was it like 5 rounds?
3, just 3. So it was 10 people the first time, then 5 the second, then the last 2 of us for the final.
And I do remember at one point, one of the guys said, give me a little Van Halen. And you start off with Ain't Talk About Love, and you know, which right off the, you know, they're saying, you know, even if you're not ready for that, you know, they're like imagine if you didn't know any Van Halen tunes, right?
That's the one part was I was afraid because they had shouted out in that second round. I went last in the second round too. They shouted out Black Sabbath to some people. They shouted out some other stuff. And I think
they told somebody to do a Randy Rhoads riff, and the guy, to his credit, knew Crazy Train and just started playing. I was like, that's impressive.
And I remember him. I think that might have been the guy that competed with me in the final. I think
it was.
He kind of nailed that. Yeah. His name's Scott, I think, and he had an awesome guitar. And
we have a Flying V or something like that.
He had a V.
Explore.
It was an Epiphone V that he had converted with the Gibson logo. We were talking all the nerd talk off to the side, and I'm like, well, listen, whatever. If I don't win anything again, you know, it's a fun experience. So they pull out. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, you finish. It's your great story, not mine.
Jack Blades or Jamie St. James said Van Halen.
Oh, it's him. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, and I hit the toggle switch for the volume. I forget what I had down, and I go into Ain't Talking About Love, and then into Feel Your Love Tonight, and then I kind of just went off into like just riffing on all sorts of stuff, and I'm kind of looking at them, but I don't want to stare too hard. I'm trying to get their feel for what they're doing, because that was supposed to be 1 minute. So then I kept going, and then at the end, I let a note hang, and I sort of grabbed the guitar and I pointed towards them, like, you know, like any band would do at the end of a song, a live song, and then sort of, you know, hit it. And they were into that. I'm like, okay, so they like the showmanship of it, even though I looked like a clown with the mask and all that. But I thought, well, maybe I have a chance in this round. And I want to say I think I got all 10s for that one, or they might have pulled out.
Somebody
11.
put up an 11. I thought somebody put up an 11.
There were 11s. I just don't remember if it was the second or third round.
Somebody put up 11.
And I'll say this from the crowd, Ben. Sorry to cut you off. Mike's being a little modest here, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, because they were going, Mike.
Right,
Mike,
exactly.
Mike,
exactly.
Mike. Yeah, and it was being encouraged by the guys on the panel, which I felt bad for the other guy, you know, who was like, what about me? You know, because they were obviously making a fuss over you. The crowd, the panel was thoroughly enjoying your performance, and they were really into it. I could see the expression on their face, the smiles, you know what I mean? And you obviously won them over big time.
I kind of had a feeling, you know, but again, I take nothing for granted. So at the end of that second round, I'm like, well, that went pretty good. And they, you know, they're chanting, you know, Jack Blades is chanting. Mike. So I'm like, all right, it's working out. So, you know, maybe we'll get on to the next round and see how this goes. And then they're like, don't go anywhere. You know, and they called out, you know, me and Scott for the last round. And, you know, so I come off the stage and I'm like, I'm on a high then. And the staff, 6th man, everyone's there fist pumping. Oh man, Mike, you killed it and all. I'm like, oh, cool, man. Thanks. You know, and then I think they brought us up and, you know, just sort of said, you're the 2 finalists. And I think Scott went first.
Yep.
And did he do All Hell's Breaking Loose? I think he did it.
I don't remember. He might have.
One thing I caught was he was doing the call and response. You know,
yes, he was. Yep.
And I did notice Jack Blades look at Tommy and go, okay, how many times are you going to do this sort of thing? So I'm like, all right, no, don't do that. And so he finished and I went up. I forget. I think I went in. I did another Kiss medley. I think I went like Parasite, watching you, Cold Gin, a couple other things, and then started doing solos. And watching the video, I realized I made a mistake. I sort of flubbed a note towards the end of that last part, and I just stopped and stared at Tommy and Jack like, yeah, what do you think about that? And then went right back into it, almost as if I meant to do it.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was talking about, like how there was your confidence and showmanship, because that's what great players do. You know, when you make a mistake, you make as if I meant to do that. You know what I mean? And you're cool, really totally cool about it. And let's face the facts. Like Ace Frehley made a living of like not playing flawlessly. Jimmy Page did, but they were so cool about their playing. So at that point, you know, you're not recording a Steely Dan record. You know what I mean? It's like you don't need to have that precise, and you played it off really well. Because I'm watching it getting nervous. And I'm like, this shit is already happening. I don't even, and I'm getting nervous. Like, I'm like, all right, don't fuck up any notes. And then I did hear what you played, but to the point that you sold it so damn well that it was like, it actually made it even better. You know what I mean?
Wow, thank you.
Let's face the facts. You wouldn't have done the pointing of the guitar, and like when you do the thing where you hit the top of the heel of the guitar and whatever, and you get that vibrato, and you do, and there's certain things I see in your technique they do that all the pros do, that you just sold it, and it was really really cool.
Oh, thank you. That was like in my head. I'm like, oh God, I screwed up. All right, just milk it, and then I do that to them, and they're, Jack Blades is going crazy, and I'm like, all right, that worked, and then. I think I could feel the girl running it for Six Man sort of tap me on the back, and I look at her, and I did notice in the video, like she didn't look back, so I just shook my head like, whatever, I'm just gonna keep going. I jumped into Cold Gin and then did just a couple more, riffs or solo things, whatever, and then just brought it down to the end, and then did my little, the toggle switch sort of Ace move thing.
Yeah.
And that's when they threw up 10s and 11s. I'm pretty sure. I'm like, I might have this in the bag. I might have gotten this one. So it all went by so fast, but it was a lot of fun, and I appreciate Mike being there. I appreciate everybody that showed up to check it out. It was fun as hell. I mean, performing is a high.
Although
in front of them,
Mike has said to me on the Let's Cruise, he's like, you need to submit a thing of playing the drums, and he knows the way I am. I'm terrible when it comes to this stuff. He's like, I want you to go up there. Of course I didn't do it because I was scared shitless. I give you a lot of credit, man. I couldn't do that. As many shows as I played, as much stuff I've recorded. Yeah, I know how goddamn hard that's got to be to go in front of your, people who you look up to, your peers and stuff like that. And you're on a boat, let's face it, a lot of critical people, you know what I mean? Especially you're doing Kiss stuff, did you hear that fucking note he played? That was, you could do that. What the fuck is he doing? You know what I mean? You don't want to get off there, you're walking around like this, But so I give you a tremendous amount of credit. And I heard afterwards, like, oh, so what does he win? What does he win? A guitar? What does he get? So, and they're like, oh, he gets. So what did you wind up winning?
He won he won a spot on the podcast.
There you go.
Is that really winning anything?
Right now. To that I said,
yeah. There you go.
There you go. Nice. Go ahead, Mike.
I was hoping for a guitar because I watched the Eric come off, and they gave that kid a snare. Well, he was going to mail it to him after the fact, but to be honest, I didn't care. It was fun. They gave me a handful of picks, and to see, like,
wait, well, hold on, let me stop you there. They gave you a handful of picks.
Gave me a handful of picks. Oh no, I also got a merch voucher, and when I went in, they had, like, I guess a box of stuff set aside. So it was a couple shirts, a signed Tommy Mini Epiphone,
all right,
and a couple things. Listen, I was just thankful to do it.
I get that part, but I was she got a bag of picks. I would have been like, that was fucking great. But
it's like a bag of rocks. Sir.
Yeah. Cheap bastards! You could have given me at least a replica of something.
Yeah, but Mike, I think the best part, and I saw you post this on Facebook, was the reaction you got from a guitar player.
Yes. On
the cruise out. So tell that part of the story, because that to me is really cool.
So the day this happened, I was literally on a high, and I'm walking the boat. And again, I was in bands in the past that were, semi-popular, and through Facebook, I'm an attention whore, so people know me.
No,
shocking, right? But I had people coming up to me left and right, taking selfies. A guy that works on the boat, like one of the staff guys, goes, "Hey, you're the guitar guy. Let's take a picture." And like tons of people had to be 20 or 30 at least wanted to take pictures. And then more people were like, just high-fiving and all that, which was cool. Like, to me, it's like, look, I didn't do anything special. I just was able to play guitar with a lot of other guys that were really good at playing guitar, and it just worked out for me. But I'm doing laps the last night, just sort of checking the last bit of things out after the Paul pajama party thing. I didn't go to it, but I was walking around.
Oh, you did that again?
Yeah, he did that again.
I missed it.
Okay. Yeah.
But downstairs by Magnum on deck 6, there's a bar there, and a lot of people are hanging out. And a couple friends of mine are there, and they know Brad Gillis. And listen, I may not have been the biggest Night Ranger fan before now, but I knew him as an originator going way back with Floyd Rose back in the day. And someone introduces me and like, this is Mike from the guitar thing. He goes, dude, what did he say? Oh man, I saw you up there. You killed it, buddy. And then gave me a fist bump. I'm like, fucking Brad Gillis just did this, man.
What?
This guy is a guitar hero.
Brad Gillis is watching Mike Brunn.
Wow.
Seriously, how dude, it just, that was just topped it off. And that was the last thing that happened to me before I went to bed, that night. So it was unreal. It was so cool with all the people. The family and friend vibe on the boat already is amazing. And then when this happened, I met so many people, some people that are like, hey, you're from Jersey, I'm from Jersey, we should get together for a band, we should do this. So I gave out my info, and I've gotten a lot of friend requests on Facebook since. And I do want to get back into a band and do some stuff, now that my kids are older. But it just all worked out so well. It was a lot of fun. I thought I looked like an idiot up there with the mask and all, but hey, listen, rules are rules. I can't.
And that's the way everybody was, Mike. So it's not like you were the only one wearing the mask on there.
And with the guitar too.
Yeah, but I also want to stop because stop you for a second because you said something. I don't think I'm doing anything special. You are doing something special. A skill set, and no matter what it is in life, playing an instrument is not an easy thing to do, especially at a very high level. We're not just talking about playing a couple of power chords, and doing like the Ramones songs. And as much as I love the Ramones, and
I was gonna say, be careful here. Be careful.
Yeah, I know. But I said, as much as I love the Ramones, it's an art form to writing those songs. Notice I didn't mention the Sex Pistols.
No, but you're spot on.
All right, but to do the technique stuff you do, it is special, and you should give yourself more credit for that.
You should give yourself a round of applause. Let's go.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a fun thing. You know how it is. Playing is a stress reliever. It's enjoyment. And that's how I treated that. And that's why I wasn't stressing it. Because some of the other guys were kind of like, oh man, like, what do we do?
That's why I give you the most credit, because that's not me at all. When I'm going to meet Peter Chris and Mike, I'm like, what do I say to him? What do I talk about? What do I talk? What do I do? What I say? I don't know. When he's going to talk to me, I'm like a nervous, wreck. But
and I could vouch that Mike was very calm and cool. When I saw him, I think it was the day before, and you were just like, yeah, well, whatever. I'll just get up there and do whatever. And then after he won, I could also vouch for the crowds of people that were interested in getting his autograph, taking pictures with him, whatever. Because I went over to I went to congratulate him, and he had a group of people. I just gave him a fist bump and said, I'll catch you later. Congratulations.
I remember that.
So, because I didn't even want to distract his fan base from getting time with him.
Yeah, don't get in the way of my fans, man.
Right. And then later on that day, you and I ran into each other in front of the buffet, and we were talking. It was our first chance to chat, and we started talking, and other people started, hey, that was great, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Mike, I'm going to let you have your moment. Catch you later, whatever. Everybody wanted to talk to Mike all of a sudden.
I tell you what, one funny part of that, I'm at the airport, right? And like the fool that I am, I got off the boat, and like in 3 minutes I was off the boat, and my flight wasn't until 2:30. So I had a long stay at Miami Airport to get acquainted with it. And I'm waiting online at Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee, and there's people in front of me, people behind me, and some guy comes up. He goes, "Dude, you're Mike, the guitar player from the Cruise." And he gives me a fist bump. He's like, "Dude, you killed it. That was amazing." And a woman in front of me turned around like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah.
And Mike, let me say this to you. My family came with me on the cruise this year, and I've been doing this podcast now for like 2.5, 3 years almost. And the number of people that came up to me on the cruise this year, was overwhelming. I'll say so many people. Oh, I see your show. I thank you. Thanks. I like it. Blah, blah, blah. Like every moment somebody was, congratulating me on a great show, asking if Vin was there, a number of people. My daughter, the next morning when we got home, when she woke up, she's like, oh look, Mike Brunn is here. Just like she's like, I feel like I feel like I need to tell you that because you haven't heard it in 6-7 days. My point in bringing this up is, you're talking about the reaction you got, and I hate to tell you this, but it's probably going to follow you next year when you go on the cruise. You're going to be like, hey, weren't you the guy that won the guitar?
We joke about it.
So get used to it.
That's fun.
Me and Mike.
It is. I think it was fun too.
Right?
Yeah.
When we
totally
do things together, I go, all right, how long until somebody, hey, Mike Brunn. Hey.
I saw it a few times.
Yeah.
I was talking to you. That's great though. I mean, do a service for fans. You set up the show and now it's taken off and people love this stuff.
But at the end of the day, we're all just fans, and that's the way I feel. And you're a fan that knows how to play guitar. I'm a fan who does these podcasts sometimes. I've been cool to interview a bunch of people, but we're all just fans at the end of the day. And that's what I love, is in that environment, everybody's just like cool with each other. And I loved seeing that you were getting that kind of love from all the people around. They're like, this is kind of cool. Just kind of watch from the outside looking in.
It was, I really enjoyed it. So anybody that cheered for me and clapped or chanted Mike, thank you. It was a lot of fun, and it is not unappreciated.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike.
All right, I'll do it too. You
should have been like, you should be like, let me hear you.
I didn't want to ruin the moment.
That's right.
Doing that, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was on top of the awesome time that the whole cruise is. I mean, there was a lot of great stories, talking to people in the buffet till 5:30 in the morning, just talking, about all sorts of stuff, making friends, meeting people from Facebook that we've been friends for years, but never actually met. And you know how it is. It's just how the cruise is. But the guitar thing was a blast. I even remember I used, what do you call it? Facebook Messenger called my wife, and I go, I won. She goes, really? That's it? That's all I get?
Yeah.
And then I remember, oh, that's right. I'm not a rock star. I'm a guy that has to go home and do this laundry that I have. She brings me back to reality.
That's right. So I just want to, because I want to just wrap up in a few minutes, but I want to just also mention.
Well, I was going to do the wrap up.
No, but I want to mention the cabin gifts first, and then go ahead and see what Mike. So I don't know, Mike, if you have yours handy, but I'll just show. We got these cool little dog tags, nice. Right? So these are usually a staple that they give away every year. We've got a couple of different guitar picks that they gave.
Those are the ones that Mike won.
Oh yeah, these are. I stole them from Mike.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, that was me. But some of the bigger gifts, and let's see, it was a cool. Yeah. It's not really a vinyl. Let me see if I could open this. It's an etched vinyl that has no music on it. It looks like a record. Mm-hmm. It smells like a record, but apparently it is no record. But it's really kind of a neat thing. You can see it looks.
Oh, that's cool,
right? And on the back side here is etched signatures from each of the guys etched into the album. No, I mean they're etched in. They're etched in.
Okay, etched. Yeah.
And for those of us who have not been on 10 times, we got the silver. So I've been on 9 times, so I got a silver. 10 times.
Who got the gold?
10 timers got gold.
Oh, they got the gold. Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought that was a really cool, neat cabin gift. At first when I heard that they were doing an etched thing that wasn't signed, I was like, eh. But then when I saw this, I'm like, yeah, they kind of they hit a home run with that one. Did you like it, Mike?
I did. I thought it was a very nice surprise. It's going to look framed, nice framed, I should say. So I think it was well done. And
then the other thing was, my daughter actually opened hers. They gave out robes to everybody. You can see it says Kiss Navy, the black silk robes. It looks like it's stitched on. It's a really nice piece. Again, my daughter opened hers and she wore it to the bedtime stories. Mine's still sealed up in the box, but I thought the gifts that Six Man did this year were really, really nice, and they outdid themselves this year, I thought. So I just wanted to mention that and acknowledge that, because they don't have to do this. These are just free gifts for us inside the cabin, but I think they did a really good job with those this year.
I agree. They were good, nicely done, and the poster that you had signed too. That was the first night.
Yep.
The only
and it
thing
was good timing on them to do that the first night, so that we could bring it to the meet and greets like I did. So that was smart on their part to do that night one.
This was
there's the microphone.
Gift. There you go.
That's awesome.
And what show is that from, Mike? Is that the second indoor show?
Yeah, show 2.
Nice.
So I didn't realize the cord was about 35 miles long. So
they gave it to you with the cord?
Yeah, full cord, the whole thing. I mean,
Oh, wow.
it's the whole length of it all the way down
because they tape
the
it,
car.
the whole Daltrey thing that they would tape it
Yeah.
up like this. Yeah.
So I'm like, the whole key to this was I need something I can bring home because last cruise, I had to rent a car and drive home. We had so much swag. So,
Wow.
this fit nicely. Although when they were looking at it in the airport, they're kind of like, hell is that?
Yeah.
Because it could be a lot of things,
It could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, it's a microphone from Kiss. They're like, okay, whatever, just get on the plane, weirdo.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't afford the microphone, then you could always, of course, just got the Kiss napkin.
I didn't get it.
You didn't realize? Oh man, I have only one here, Mike. Sorry.
See?
Yeah. So, but all right, Vin, this is your show this week. I'm going to let you wrap us up.
So what I wanted to say, and the timing's a little past, but
sorry,
they announced that there's going to be Kiss Cruise 11 featuring Mike Brunn and his all-star band. So see, that's why I wanted to go to. But anyway, so they announced that there's going to be a Kiss Cruise 11. So I know there's always like, was this going to be the last Kiss Cruise? And perhaps it would have been if it wasn't for the pandemic, because they would have been done with their tour, right? But there's also speculation the Kiss might still do this even past when they stop touring, whatever. But so what do you? I mean, I know I'm asking an obvious question, so I'm trying to find a question not to ask that's obvious, saying, "Oh, how do you feel that they're going to be doing this again?"
Well, in the Q&A, Stanley pretty much admitted that they're going to keep doing the cruises.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I think when they referenced End of the Road numerous times, prior to all this, they said we will be done as a touring entity. Mm-hmm. So that leaves the door open for residencies and the cruise because it's easy money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be there.
So you'll go into Kiss Cruise 11, Mike?
Yep, all set, ready to go.
Nice.
So I'm wondering, without Kiss being a touring entity, and just kind of piggybacking on this, from what we hear that the Kiss Vegas thing was canceled, and I don't know if this was, and maybe you guys know more, if it was because of sales or whatever. If it's still going to have, do you guys think it's going to still have the same kind of attention or draw for Kiss Cruise once they stop touring?
I think next year is going to sell out instantly because all the international people who couldn't go, I think are going to book like that.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
I'll also add one other thing Stanley said about the cruises. He could see it evolve into where there's Kiss cruises without Kiss on them.
And he said that about Kiss in general.
Yes.
Yes. But do you really want that? I mean, you guys, do you really want that?
I don't, because I usually go with my family, and for me, it's a family vacation. But I think there's probably hundreds, if not 1,000 or more people that go to connect with each other because they see each other once a year. They live in different areas. And would they still go if there was Kiss related things on the boat? If Bruce's band was playing there, I think you'd find probably a number of people that would still do it. I don't think I would, but I think you'd find other people because I just have a different cruise experience than others.
Yeah.
I'd go. As long as there's Bruce, as long as it's a Kiss theme, get a Bruce performance or Ace or something. If it's just the Kiss cruise without anything Kiss, then probably not. But you're right. You're going to get, I'd say, half the boat at least with people that are, friends now that this is their one time to see them. And guaranteed, you're right. The next Kiss cruise will sell out fast, real fast.
So. Yep.
Yeah.
I think so. No, look, I think, to me, and it's what I said about an hour ago at this point, think about the first hour and a half. We didn't even talk about any of the Kiss shows. And it's easy for people who are on the computer, reading or watching a clip to criticize this or that. If you're a Kiss fan and you've been on the boat, you get it. When I went on Kiss Cruise 2, I was going on it one time to experience it once, just to say, hey, I've been on a Kiss Cruise. I've been back 8 other times since then, right? Why? Yeah. Because it's so much fun. Mike, it took you a few years until you were able to get on the boat, and you got on, and now you're not getting off, right? You keep saying, I'm going. So it's one of these things that once you go, you get it. If you're just watching at home, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand everybody has different opinions, but you can't fully understand what the experience is like unless you're there. And then when you top it off with things like what Mike experienced this year, and the trivia thing is cool, and you got the certificate, but being up on that stage, playing guitar and being at the indoor shows and all these different things, it's an experience. I wrote a song, my daughter and I, with Gene Simmons on one of Cruises. Where the hell am I ever going to do that again in my lifetime? The answer is I'm not. Okay. So it's just an amazing experience. If you could afford it and cruises are your thing, I would strongly suggest doing it. Even if you're a casual Kiss fan, and I've had friends come with me who are casual Kiss fans and had a great time and loved it. So that's the way I'm going to wrap up. If you could afford it and you could do it and into music and you even know some Kiss stuff, you're going to have a blast, because we just spent 2.5 hours talking about it. And there are things that happened on the ship that we didn't even get to talk about really all that much, whether it's still some of the other events that took place, some of the other things that Tommy and Eric and Paul and Gene were doing on the boat. It's just an amazing, amazing 4.5, 5-day experience that I'm glad I was there. I had a great time. Mike, I'm glad that I got to hang and talk with you a little bit on the cruise this year as well. And Vin, maybe you'll be returning next year if I do decide to go. Who knows?
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it. And then I'm going to make you sign up for the drum off. I'm going to sign up for you if you go. So
maybe if they had a bass off, I might be more confident these days.
The guitar thing, let me say this. One guy did do bass.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can always be more showy and more impressive on a guitar. It's just one of those things.
Agreed.
You know, drummers and bass players are at the lowest level, you know, of like the total. They don't get the less. Yeah.
That drum off was packed.
It was.
And, you know, the
interesting.
kid that won was really good. There was a lot of really good players.
There really was.
You know, I mean, really solid players. And obviously, if you have a 13-year-old come in that's really good, I mean, it's a given. He's
a given. Right. Like the year we went, Mike, there was a young kid who won, remember?
Yeah. Yep. And this kid was 13 years old, and he didn't win only because he was a kid. I'm sure not that didn't hurt him, but he had the chops. He was good. So he deserved to win just as a player, add in the kid aspect, and you knew he was going to be the winner. So that was cool. But you know, for those who watched online, I'd love to hear what was your favorite, you know, what was it? The Ultimate Classic Rock Day did their top 5 moments on the cruise. What was your top 3 things that you saw online? If you were on the ship, what was your favorite moments besides watching Mike win the guitar thing, right? So nobody kiss up to Mike on this one. We know that's number 1. That's
me.
Right.
I'm 5.
Mike. That's the top 5. But I'm curious just to see what other people thought was some of the good events on the ship this year. And fellas, this was a blast. Thank you for joining. Again, Mike, congratulations. And thank you both for joining this one. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Later, everybody. Yes.
Peace. All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank both Mike and Vincent for taking some time talking all about Kiss Cruise 10. That was really a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, guys. I'd like to also extend a thank you to Kiss, Sixth Man, and the entire Norwegian cruise line for making a tremendous experience and for making the experience as safe as possible for us in this crazy time we're living in. Thanks so much, everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.